back to the Unpatched Gaming Podcast, where we share games. It has been a while.
Quite a while.
Welcome to our new set.
Yes, welcome. It's not that different. We've got a blue wall instead of a gray wall and some new decor. Like this Criterion
Gojira.
That's about it.
Yeah,
and
that's it.
We're in Zach's house now.
Yay.
We're in Zach's house because I am getting the heck out of Manor.
Yeah, he's finally
moving. Which is
stuff.
why I didn't get to finish this game.
He was very close.
Yes, I have like a session left. I'm going to finish it right after this podcast. Unless we play a board game or something. I don't know.
And what game is that for our listeners who didn't know the title?
Persona 5 Royale.
Yeah, so we did play Royale.
Listen, hold on. We're not here to talk about Persona 5 Royale yet. Because beer.
That's true.
And it's a fine beer.
Yes.
This is a barley wine from Fair Isle Brewing. Life Ain't Fair barley wine. This is... I may have said this a few times about alcohol in general. It's dangerous. Dangerously smooth. This is a 14.7. I believe it's 14.7. Above 14. 14.8. And you can't taste the alcohol. It's just a deliciously smooth, syrupy, cinnamony.
Cinnamony.
Yep, cinnamony. That's what I said.
No, it really is delightful. Amanda shared this with me pretty recently, and I gotta say it's a winner.
It's heaven.
Yeah, I'm also a big barley wine guy though, so
I didn't know I was until I tried it recently, but yeah, this one's great. I thought I'd be sharing it with you for the first time, but I guess that's not the case.
Amanda beat you to the punch.
Correct. Anyway, Fair Isle Brewing, Life Ain't Fair barley wine. If you get the chance, I cannot recommend this one enough.
Yeah, and we have some other special things coming a little bit later once we finish up our barley wines. Will be delightful. But yeah, I wanted to mention, even though we are technically playing Persona 5 Royale, we will not be covering the Royale content, the final palace, basically.
Yeah, whatever changes are in the rest of the game will of course be addressing.
Yeah. But
the chunk of content there at the end, he got the original ending. I have triggered that, the additional content. I didn't get there. I'm in the middle of moving, and it's great.
Yeah, I'm surprised you got it this far. I'm proud of you.
Dude, I'm
proud of you.
I have done nothing else. I've been telling my wife, I'm so happy to be finished with this game. That is not to say I am at all tired of playing it. This is wildly out of character for me. One, I don't really like long games, and I don't like JRPGs. And I've put about 120 or 30 hours into this, and am
mostly in the Velvet Room.
Not fatigued at all.
Yeah,
I'm excited to go back and play.
I'm honestly, I share some similar sentiments. It's fantastic. But I wanted to mention as well that we are newcomers to Shin Megami Tensei overall. This is our first game in that overarching series, and so obviously also our first game in the Persona series. So this is pretty new for both of us. I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about, one thing first. We will be covering spoilers, obviously.
Oh, yes.
But we will be progressing through them. So we'll basically just be talking a lot of gameplay. We'll be like, the stuff we usually like to talk about. But we will eventually, we'll hit a point. You can see it marked in the description or in the timestamps. We'll start talking about story, and we'll go one palace at a time. Feel free to follow along. This is a great game, great story. Definitely play it for yourself. But wanted to mention that real quick.
Great story.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think I'll mention it now, I guess. It's a very long game. About 120 hours for a diligent player. Maybe a little less for a diligent player. What'd you clock in at?
I did the original ending, and I clocked in at 96. But
wow.
I also read lightning fast.
Yes. So
I was clicking through, for example, my wife watched me play this whole game, beginning to end. I was clicking through the dialogue, and she said, "Are you even reading it? Like, let me read it." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm reading it." She's like, "You're just clicking the button." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm reading it." She's like, "No, you can't be. How are you reading it?" And she's dyslexic too, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I think I am. Well,
yeah, so she's on both. Yeah, pretty much most people in my family are dyslexic, so I feel kind of bad. I had to kind of slow down. I started reading it a little bit too. That helped, but yeah, I just read lightning fast. So don't expect a 96-hour playthrough.
So at least 100 hours for a pretty diligent player. I mean, my timestamp is somewhere around 180 hours, but I have been playing during times where
you just have to leave it on. And...
yeah, I play at work. I play while I'm working. But I won't be anymore now that we're done with this all-consuming lifestyle.
Yeah, it really is.
But
It's amazing.
I didn't mention. So it's a super long game. I didn't finish mentioning. Super long game, and it gets pretty out there. You know, it's a Japanese fictional story. We've all seen things like Neon Genesis, utter nonsense.
In the best
Kind of nonsense.
Love it.
You know, it doesn't get that crazy, but it gets pretty out there.
In the
Not
best way.
once do they let you forget things in the story. I liken it to the movie Brick. So Brick is a movie about a bunch of high schoolers. I think they're like maybe juniors or younger. They're pretty young kids, and they get involved in a pretty big like drug heist. There's a brick of cocaine that one of the students is moving, and it's a thriller. It's like a crime thriller, but the movie stops like 5 or 6 times throughout and drops a scene that reminds you these are high school kids.
It's very good.
Because it does get really intense, and you forget these are just young kids. And this game does things similarly. It's so intuitively places reminders of everything in the story. It doesn't let you forget any little bit. I mean, even towards the end, they're calling back to things that happened in the very first, the tutorial area.
I think of other long
and
form
it's
stories.
It's so well paced.
Yeah, I think of other long form stories like, the Wheel of Time, like just a huge amount of text to get through that series. But really good authors are able to weave in pieces of the story that make sure you're not forgetting the important stuff, the stuff they've been building up to somewhere else in the world. It's really elegant, and there's an incredible amount of skill behind the dialogue here, behind the overall story. I'm really consistently impressed my whole time playing this game.
But then, of course, you have the sort of lore dump at the end, which I think seems to be typical of a lot of JRPGs I've played. Like, when things start wrapping up, there's like a reminder of the story, or it almost treats you as unintelligent. The number of times that things are reiterated in a very short period of time, and like the entire story is unraveled and basically read to you.
But what makes this one bearable in every sense is the characters are the ones doing it and telling it.
Sure.
And I think at that point, I could honestly listen to Sojiro just talk to me about just washing his laundry. Yeah, I'd totally listen. But I guess that kind of leads naturally into, like, what did you think going into this game? Because, like, I wrote a little diary. I kept a little diary every time I played. I'd go and write a little entry in my diary of stuff that I was thinking about. It's really fun to go back and read the early entries and see kind of where I stood. And my first expectations were that I was going to love the game. I was pretty sure. All I knew was kind of the hype around it, the style, the music. And I was really, really interested in finding out how it can hold a player's attention for so long. But I also was expecting to get pretty tired of portions of the game by hour 60, 90. I was expecting to be like, okay, even though I enjoy the game still, I'm sick of this. I very, very rarely, I want to say never, but I know that's not true, but almost never felt tired of playing this game. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't feel that exhaustion at all. And that alone is an accomplishment of the highest
100%.
Order.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Just wow to me. What about you? What kind of expectations did you have?
I also expected to get tired of it, just because, 10 hours is my sweet spot. 120 is nonsense. Like, in our schedule, we have the expected playtime for each game. I didn't even put one. I just put why the hell in the playtime cell in our spreadsheet. It's nonsense. 120 hours, but that was not the case, as we've explained. Still not tired of it. I was expecting to sort of rediscover what I used to love about JRPGs, because it is so accessible. Like, that's what a lot of people have talked about. It's so accessible. It's so widely loved. So I was expecting to like it quite a bit. Certainly not as much as I am. And I was expecting really good characters, and I was expecting at least something on the level of Catherine. That's the only other Atlas game I've played. Well, we played Rule of Rose.
Yeah.
But is that like just published by Atlas?
It's just published.
Okay.
It was the developers were one of the teams that split off from the I always forget their name, but the guys who did Moon.
Yeah. That's right. So Catherine is the only other in-house like first-party Atlas game I've played. So I was expecting some similar like design philosophies, or rather, I guess like the quality of the game. I was expecting it to be about the same because it was developed immediately after Catherine, and you can see a lot of it. Some of the animations very similar, like Ryuji's attack animation is so similar to Vincent's attack animation when he swings his pillow. And just the character models in the world, it's all in that Catherine era. But other than that, so getting tired of it, rediscovering things that I used to like about JRPGs and the characters, I wasn't expecting much because I've kind of ignored it. I mean, it's difficult to. You know about the music, you know about the characters, and just how unashamedly... Well, no, I didn't know just how self-indulgent it was. I knew it was flashy. I knew there was just so much style. But this game, unlike any other piece of media that I've consumed, is... I think self-indulgent is the correct term, but to such an effective degree. Like it does so much. The UI is insane, and anywhere else would not work, but just pulls you into the world so much and helps you fall in love with how does the UI help you fall in love with the characters? It's incredible. And it allows everything to flow super smoothly with really just a couple exceptions. Like getting in and out of the Velvet Room is really stupid. I think you can get like 5 menus deep. Like just hold the circle button to go back to the room menu. Something like that. But with very few
when you're
exceptions.
Picking that out as a problem, that's how you know it's really good. Like when you're going that far.
Well, deep menus are a problem. It is a big problem because it happens in a couple other places.
Sure, but man, like if you're drilling that deep to identify it as a problem, that just as a testament to how good.
I suppose I would pick it out very quickly. That is something that catches my eye.
Okay.
Just generally. But the presentation of the UI is incredible. And then there's one other... Actually, I think this is a pretty big complaint for the UI as well. It's inconsistent about when it gives you data and what data it gives you about that thing. So, like the skill cards, there's a bunch of different places that they're viewed or how you collect them. It's inconsistent about where it tells you what those skill cards are.
Yeah,
and then same thing with the equipment.
It's not that big a deal. It really isn't.
I mean, if you can learn the
minor.
names,
it's very minor in my opinion. But yeah,
well, you don't pay attention to UI very much. That's something I pay attention to a great deal.
I can tell what I need to tell from it.
Yes, it's very good. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna point out some things that I'm gonna nitpick some stuff. We're here to talk about the game and do a pretty deep dive on it. So that is one of them.
Okay.
But generally, the UI is incredible. Utterly stunning at times.
So we're going to start our analysis henceforth, but I wanted to make sure that we touched on one thing before anyone who is interested in the game stops listening. Anyone who wants to kind of bow out before we start, really digging into what this game is. Advice for anyone who's interested in this game. Kind of maybe what they should be aware of, people maybe who you think might not want to play this game, might not want to start on that huge amount of time investment, maybe how they should play it. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes. So I was listening to someone else talk about this before, but on the loading screen sometimes it shows a logo, sometimes it shows a loading bar or whatever, just a spinning image. It's the words flash in the corner of the screen. Take your time.
Yep.
If you are pressed for time, if you have any sort of engagements for the next month, maybe don't play it. Give yourself a lot of time to play it. Don't rush, and really engage with as many of the mechanics as possible. Now, we're going to talk about the mechanics later and some of the things you like, I might maybe dislike a little more.
And stuff that you and I didn't even unearth and start looking into until
way late in the game
that like could have been used to great effect.
Yeah. So take your time. Dig into as many of the mechanics as you can, because honestly, I don't think they're particularly deep. Some of it's a little convoluted. No, one part, literally one part, and that is fusing personas. How the
alarm.
Yeah, exactly how the alarm works. I think I've got it down almost, without just reading about it. But there's a particular part where you go into your Pokemon bank and you start mixing and matching Pokemon. In this case, personas. That's what the Velvet Room is. It holds all your personas, and you can do various things with them. So when you merge personas based on many factors that are affected outside of the persona part of the metaverse is what it's called, in just your everyday school life, those things affect your personas. And then when you fuse a persona or two personas, stats stats are affected, skills are passed down, abilities are
We'll talk about it more
given.
in depth.
We will. That part gets a little convoluted, but other than that, it's not particularly deep. So don't be afraid to really dive in to everything that's there, because I don't think you're going to get drowned by the number of
You're
stuff.
not going to make a mistake early game that you won't be able to rectify later.
Definitely not. And don't be afraid to dive into a mechanic, because it's going to so expertly pace all of the mechanics that are given to you.
Yeah, masterfully.
And we'll talk about this, but it's a super modular game. That's one of my favorite aspects about it, which we'll talk about later. Last thing, maybe I actually don't have another one. Just love the dating sim. Okay, that's the best part about this game, the dating sim. We tried to play dating sims last year. So I think it was our second episode. The first one we uploaded was walking sims, and the week before we were also going to dive into dating sims, and we tried, and we just couldn't. But if dating sims were more like Persona 5, even without the JRPG stuff, just the day-to-day real-life aspect of Persona 5, I would play all of them. I love it.
Well, I'm going to talk about it more later, but Persona 5 has this incredible infatuation that it wants to share with you with just the everyday of being a student, of a human being. Like just the banal stuff we look over every day, and the significance of that. And the ending even feeds into that idea. And I picked up on it really early, and that's my favorite part of the whole game, is just that fascination it has. So yeah, I guess those are really good things. The last piece that I guess I'd like to tack onto that is this is definitely a game that if you put that time into it, that you're investing, you're not just skipping through stuff, that you're really giving it your effort, it will give back 100-fold. It really will. There's so much there. There's a reason that this game is as popular as it is. I cannot recommend that you play this game enough. Like Tyler said, find the time. Take that time. It's fantastic. Let's get started. Let's talk about the world a little bit. So, this is going to be very brief. I just want to kind of, for anyone who's coming in who hasn't played this game or isn't familiar with Persona series, this is, the rundown of Persona 5. You have a cognitive world which is kind of built on top. It's kind of like superimposed on top of reality. What is happening in reality impacts this cognitive world and vice versa. It's kind of a, what's the word? Freudian, no, it's the Jungian probably is more accurate, realization of people's psyches. And those who are particularly distorted in their desires manifest these things called palaces that are kind of in the cognitive world superimposed over a real structure or a real place. And these people rule their palaces, and their distorted desires kind of feed what that palace looks like. And their actions in the real world are forming it. It's how they see the world. And inside their palaces, they have the treasure. And that's what the whole palace was born out of, basically. It's the little treasure. And the whole premise is if you are able to steal this treasure, you basically remove the source of their distorted desires, and all that guilt comes crashing down on them, and they repent. That's kind of the whole shtick. And then you have, if you kill their cognitive version of themselves in the cognitive world, the metaverse, they will actually have a shutdown in real life. Like their brain will just shut down. You play as a named protagonist that you get to name, and you basically throughout the game start rallying together these other students, other people around your age who are sick of these distorted adults driving the world in a way that is gross or awful, and you decide to steal their treasures. It's that simple. It's a really interesting premise, and then basically there is finally one larger palace that's the shared cognition of everyone. It's called Mementos. Everybody's generic public shared cognition manifests as this massive subway system called Mementos. And that's kind of the general pitch. There's very few other details. I guess the last thing is that people who are particularly rebellious and strong in their own personalities manifest personas when they're in the metaverse, when they're in the cognitive world, that reflect their inner rebel. They like clothes show up on them that is kind of what they believe a rebel to look like, and their persona reflects that as well. You, as the main character, are able to mix and match and swap around personas, take them from the enemies, use them for your own, that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's kind of, I guess, the general pitch of the game. It's pretty interesting. It's a fun little premise.
Yeah, I've not really played anything or really seen anything quite like it. I like the general conceit quite a bit, so I'm excited to go back and see what it's probably still the cognitive world in the other Persona games, but what the conceit is for that particular group of students.
Yeah, if you're listening to try to figure out what this game is compared to the others, this is a newcomer's
we're
perspective.
Just talking about Persona 5.
Yeah, with a newcomer's perspective on the series. Hopefully one day we'll be able to talk about those things in a more informed way. But right now this is really good for people who want to hear a newcomer's perspective. But yeah, I don't think there's much else we can talk about in terms of the world. So let's jump right into the good stuff, the gameplay. Like I said before, Persona 5 holds the everyday in this high regard, unlike almost any other media I've experienced. It reminds me a lot of David Foster Wallace's perspective on just the banal and the simple. It's really beautiful. And so your actions when you're not in the metaverse will all influence the battles and the exploration that happen when you're in palaces or in Mementos. And the same way around the other way, your actions in those places influence what happens in the real world. Depending on what persona you have will determine who you can develop bonds with among your confidants faster. So you want to go ahead and talk about the confidant system? I think this is obviously one of the big draws of Persona 3 through 5.
Yeah. So it's not in the earlier ones?
It's not in one
I
or
guess
two.
We're not really
wait, sorry. I don't know about confidants. I just meant, I just know those are the most similar. I actually don't know.
Well, I know they weren't called confidants. I think they were called, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, very intentionally in the dark.
Yeah. So the confidant system, it's based on the, like a tarot deck, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you've got like the chariot, you've got death, the priestess, emperor. You've got a bunch of different things. The fool, that are all a tarot card, and someone who shares a personality that might fit with that style or what that card represents is given that confidant. So they are the death confidant or the chariot confidant. And as you enter into a relationship with them, whatever that relationship might be, it could just be a purely transactional relationship, a romantic relationship, or some sort of familial relationship. You begin to build that bond, and in that cognitive world, those bonds strengthen, and other personas, so not just yours, but personas based on the collective conscience. So mostly religious figures or mythical figures. No, actually, exclusively. Like,
yeah, no. The idea being that the public manifests these ideas based on the stories that they've heard.
Yeah.
Right. These powerful images have kind of resonated to create these demons.
I'm surprised there's not like a Slender Man. I don't just mean like what we currently know as Slender Man, but there's you can watch videos about how Slender Man is some sort of like being of collective conscience, because you can look back just throughout ancient history and see very similar figures, of course not in a dapper suit, but very similar figures from around the world, even at the same times. Like, society's not in communication with each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of those
that
things.
do the same thing as Slender Man and are presented in similar fashion. Not the same.
I'm just kind of sad that you said the word Slender Man on this podcast, but I guess we'll move on.
Yeah, I guess we'll move on. But anyway, things like Slender Man or religious figures like
Gabriel.
There's a lot of, I think the Hindu religion is very well represented here. It's a lot of imagery stuff there. But you can collect these personas as Pokemon. Let's be real, they're Pokemon, and each of them are linked to a confidant as well. So Shiva might be the strength confidant. I'm making that up. I don't remember which one Shiva is, but Chernabog is death. He's a god of death. Yeah, which we'll talk about Chernabog.
Yeah, we will.
We'll talk about Chernabog. And then, like, Messiah is the judge confidant.
So, I'm pretty sure that Pokemon are Megami Tensei demons, because the first Megami Tensei game was 1987.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that, just because I'm an idiot. Let's move on. Okay. I want to keep... Let's move on now. I apologize.
And
for wasting everyone's time.
You can train these personas in various ways. They're incredibly disposable, which is something I'll talk about later. Incredibly disposable.
I think for the better, in my opinion.
For the beginning of we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. This is a point that we pretty much the main point we disagree on. Yeah. I think is the personas themselves. So each of them are linked with a confidant as well, and as you strengthen that relationship in the real world, in the cognitive world, you strengthen your use of those personas.
Yeah,
and your ability to strengthen them further.
Yeah, so when you create the persona, the better your relationship with the associated confidant, that will give them a big old EXP boost, make sure that they're stronger. You can get personas of much higher level than where you're at. Just through this confidant fusion system.
So in addition to that, when you have a persona in your party that is of a particular confidant, it also strengthens your building of that relationship in the real world. So they're completely married. Yeah. And it really is a great system. But on top of that is the modularity I talked about, which is one of my favorite aspects of this game, or rather what I find most interesting. The dating sim aspect of it is my favorite. I loved building relationships with these characters. But every confidant that you can enter into a relationship with has brand new mechanics. Some things that are nothing that is vital. All of it is modular. So if you want to build unique personas by giving them skill cards. It's basically just a way to teach them a particular skill, a very specific skill. You can go down this confidant path and build a relationship with that character. And the Emperor Confidant can allow you to make skill cards. The let's see, the Hermit Confidant, a character you get later in the game, doesn't actually. It's a party member. The person that uses the Hermit Confidant doesn't actually engage in combat. Sits on the sidelines and gives you abilities occasionally based on her luck stat. But having a hermit persona while you talk to the hermit confidant character builds those two things and allows you to have brand new mechanics. And that's true of every single confidant.
Yeah, and each one lends something so unique. There's a confidant that lets you capture, because you can fuse personas, but you can also capture personas that you're fighting. And you can capture personas above your level. There's another confidant that allows your whole party to gain equal experience points, even if they're not actually in combat. You can only have 4 fighters in combat, including the main character who has to be in combat. So
now, that's not just something you get when you enter into a relationship with that confidant. Every confidant has 10 ranks, and every few ranks you get some sort of skill that builds on that particular
and
mechanic.
a lot of times for party members, it's stuff like, there's a random chance that they will snap another party member out of a status ailment.
Yeah, and that's true of most of them, right?
Yeah, almost all of them have that, and will step in front of Joker to take critical damage.
Now, I didn't actually pursue many of the party members, the relationship with the party members. It was the supporting cast that I really went down the relationships with. So
I think I maxed out.
I know
4 party members.
I've only maxed out 1 so far. I'm just about to max out a second. But I know Yusuke allows you to do the cards.
Yep.
And that's totally outside of battle, but he's also got the things inside of battle, like stepping in front of to take damage, snapping you out of the ailments. What other party members? So I know Haru. What other party members do things outside of combat, like give you a new game mechanic?
I know. So Makoto's is in combat. It's the one that lets you identify an opponent's weakness or their affinity.
That's a good one.
That one's really good.
I thought that was a Akechi.
No, it's Makoto.
What's the sleuthing thing?
That's maybe no. So you're right. Akechi's the one that identifies weakness. Makoto's the one that identifies the whole shebang sometimes.
Okay.
And then occasionally just one affinity, but I don't remember one of them. They're kind of interchangeable. I know they both do that. And then I think that Ryuji's is just combat as well. I don't think he actually does.
So I think he's got
else.
the full suite of those combat things.
Yeah.
Whereas like Yusuke only has a few of them.
Yeah.
But then it has the card things.
Yep. And then at the max 10,
one?
at rank 10, at the what did you say?
Does On have a?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
At rank 10 though is when you hit if with a party member, if you hit rank 10, their persona basically evolves into a super version of their persona. It gets better stats. It gets better. It gets an evade their weakness passive ability, which is really good. So
I will do that when we're done here. I'm just about to go talk to Yusuke for that final.
Yusuke.
For that level 10.
I love Yusuke. So yeah, that's good stuff. I mean, honestly, that was what first made me realize I was going to really love this game, was the marrying of these two disparate ideas. Not only disparate in gameplay, but like the world itself is separated. There's the metaverse sections and the real world, quote unquote, sections, and it's so well married. The ideas are very clearly, here's the separation of them, and yet they just influence each other and build off of each other consistently. Every time I'm back from a dungeoneering exploit, I'm like, I don't go, oh, well, where's the next dungeon? I go, oh, let me go talk to this person. Let me try to boost my kindness. There are some gates that keep you from boosting confidant relationships based on who you are as a person. And how kind are you? There's a little star. There's kindness, guts, proficiency, knowledge, charm. And you have to upgrade these things because certain characters will need you to have a certain level of these things in order to progress their relationships. So you also have to spend time doing that. But then sometimes spending time with a confidant will also boost one of those stats. Like everything will give, a lot of things will give you double bonuses so you can spend your time wisely.
Spending your time.
Yeah, but we'll get there. I just want to make sure we
Okay.
touch on this beforehand. I just really value the ability to it's so deftly handled to be able to, not only for newcomers to, as they naturally want to see, it's like a self-paced story. I want to continue on story really, really hard right now, or I kind of want to see a little bit of where Haru's going and where this politician guy's going. You really get this incredible player-paced storytelling out of it that is not really done very often. And then, of course, for returning players, people playing New Game Plus or people who have beaten the game already, they'll know which confidants have what they want, and they'll be able to just press on those ones.
But there's something else about New Game Plus that you found out, right?
Yes, which is a beautiful touch of design.
Yeah, this is really something.
Yeah, when you beat the game, they're kind of assuming that you're very likely to play New Game Plus.
Which is crazy. What a show of confidence. You just spent 120 hours. We know you're going to play again.
And I want to so bad. But yeah, so any confidant that you had rank 10, so max rank with, when you go talk to them at the end of the game, they'll give you a trinket that carries over into New Game Plus. And this trinket gives you one of the higher tier benefits, sometimes two, of that relationship. So, for example, rank 10 with Mishima is the one that gives you where all your party members get equal experience points, even if they're not fighting. His trinket that he gives me lets me do that even if I'm not rank 10 with him. So when I start New Game Plus and that relationship resets, the game is encouraging me to go and try other confidant relationships.
So they're not always the level 10, right?
No, it's usually just one that you're going to want to go for, typically. Because some of the rank, so for example, the rank 10 with many of your party members is just the better persona. So they'll usually give you something different. So for Makoto, it's the immediately identify all the stats of an enemy.
I'm sure for Yusuke, it's the make cards immediately.
I don't remember what Yusuke's was, actually, now that I think about it. But I love that. That's a beautiful touch of design.
It's really good.
It's a way to encourage the player to play differently next time, which is just great. Oh, it's good design. So, yeah, I want to touch on that. But yes, let's talk the days cycle.
Yeah.
There is
this
a
is
limited
awesome
amount of time in this game that every day you have a certain amount of time, typically 2 slots unless there's a big story moment going on, to do some actions. And depending on the time of day, certain people will be available or activities will be available. Sometimes they're available both, sometimes just one. It's a big time management mechanic.
Yeah.
How are you
And
gonna
there's
spend
a
your
lot
time?
of stuff. So anytime you interact with a character, you choose to interact. You can walk up and talk and decide, do I want to hang out with Yusuke? Do I want to do I want to use those his make a card mechanic? So you can decide before you lock in your time slot. But fully hanging out with them to further your relationship, that takes one of your 2 time slots. Going into the metaverse actually takes both of your time slots because you're exhausted after you come out of it. Getting armor in this game is not cheap. Armor is very expensive, but you can get it from chests, from killing enemies, but it's dirty. You have to do your laundry. You have to study for school.
That's my favorite part of the game. You were talking about favorite part of the game. My favorite part of the game is that you have to do laundry.
That's nuts.
Isn't that crazy?
I don't get you sometimes.
I know. It's that's what turned it on for me. That fascination with the banal. It just values that stuff.
I mean, it's interesting that you have. I like the mechanic of having to do something to your armor.
No, me. It has much more to do with
I understand
the romanticism of it.
I get it. For that reason, but just as a in a vacuum as a gameplay mechanic, I guess not in a vacuum because in association with your super limited time slots. Sitting down to do laundry is nonsense. But, tip for new players, when you enter into your relationship, when you can start your relationship with one of your teachers, get that up just like 2 levels maybe, because that's basically going to give you a free time slot.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's incredible.
It's really good stuff.
And when you max that out, you basically get 2 time slots. So we'll talk about her because I love her so much. I really do adore her.
Good.
But so she's a maid, and like as her second job, so you can hire her to clean your room, make coffee for you, which coffee is a consumable item, gives you stuff. Curry, consumable item. She can make coffee or cook for you. She can do your laundry. Later, when you max out, and she's expensive though, $5,000 for a visit, 5,000 yen. So it's pretty pricey to basically get a free time slot. When you max her out, those things become free, and then she'll give you a massage. So when you come back from the metaverse, you could have just killed the boss. Doesn't matter what you do in the metaverse. When you come back, you get a massage, and you're good to go. You get another time slot. But you can hire her again to also make your coffee or do your laundry. So you hire her for the massage, go do another thing, and then go do another thing. It's great. You get 2 time slots.
Seriously, time slots are very valuable in this game. I put it here, opportunity cost, right? Everything has an opportunity cost, because if you choose, like, what if someone texts you out of the blue, hey, I would like to spend a more extra special time with you, like Yusuke always wants to hang out with you because he's just that.
But then when you do, he's like, what is your goal here?
Yeah, he's like baffled. But if you choose to, spend time with them when they text you out of the blue, a lot of times, hey, do you want to also go do this with me? And you'll get, maybe some points to your kindness or to your charm, extra benefits. But if you really, really, really want to just boost your relationship with Ryuji, you can do that. You absolutely can do that. And instead, right, everything has an opportunity cost. What are you giving up time to do what you currently want to do? The most elegant example of this is this even proceeds into what we would call grinding, right? So, kind of framed like this, in most games, the dungeon portion, let's take a Final Fantasy game. What you're doing in the dungeon typically very closely relates to what you're doing in outside of dungeons. You're typically just fighting, maybe having a conversation here or there, but if you're going to get experience, you're going to spend your time, like your real world time, you're typically just doing the same thing you do in a dungeon, just on a lighter scale, right? Not so in Persona. When you are not in the dungeon, you are building relationships, you are spending time doing your laundry, right? You're doing these things. But let's say you do need some more experience, right? You feel like you're a little behind. I don't know how you could be, but yeah, it's not a grindy game at all. Thank the Lord on high, it's not a grindy game. But when you go into Mementos, which is the kind of generic everybody's prison, you can go in there pretty much whenever you want. There doesn't have to be an active infiltration of one of the main palaces going on, right? You can go in there and you can just fight enemies, right? As you progress down further, the enemies get stronger. You can just fight enemies. But the game does something really, really interesting. So your health and your SP, which is your magic, basically, they don't regenerate unless you have items to do so, right? You can basically, and because of how combat works, which we'll talk about a little bit, you basically need magic to do combat at all. It's especially early on, because it's pretty integral to the fundamental system of the game, this kind of knockdown mechanic that they have. So when you're out of SP, you're pretty much done. It's your gas. It's your gasoline for palaces and stuff. So you can grind as long as you have SP. As long as you have SP, you can grind to your heart's content. In Mementos, though, there's a character called Jose, and this character, you can, as you progress further in Mementos and find these stamp stations, you can basically have him shift Mementos. It's kind of the story conceit of it. And, okay, I want to be getting more experience. So you can boost it all the way from 100%, so just default, to 200% experience. You can want more money. I want to get 20% more money from battles, or
which is
50%.
Great. Don't underestimate. You might be tempted to go all into experience, which I did. But it's nice that you can
and you can
reshuffle
that.
Yeah. But going all
items.
into money, I never did items.
I did.
I don't have any items.
It made it was good early game and then kind of petered off. But yeah, you can
money, dude. You can grind out so much money, and you need money not only to buy weapons and stuff like that, but as you catch personas, as you gain a persona, it goes into a compendium, and you can just buy it again. You don't have to go catch it. And as you train a persona, you can re-register it to take the place of the default version of that.
Yeah.
And keep re-registering it. It gets more expensive. Like, I have a super early game persona. I only traded out today. Like, I think it's a level 29 persona. I got it up to, I think, 89.
Yeah.
Which I said they're super disposable, which we'll talk about more. I think there'll be a place for it. But you can keep leveling that up. So it went from like being, I don't know, 8,000 maybe it costs. Now it costs about 92,000 to get.
Yeah.
Because you can do other things with it other than battle. You can dispose of it to get an item, a card. You can use it to like fuse it with another persona, give it experience, or make a new one. You can do a bunch of things, but then just buy it again. It's great. And when you come out of a dungeon, you're loaded. You've got so much treasure to sell, so much money, and then you go and do that. Now you're broke again. You're broke, before you go into the next dungeon. Do the money thing.
It's really good.
Mementos.
So you get to determine what your time in Mementos, because you have a limited amount of time, especially early game, because if you spend too long, a hyper powerful super boss called the Reaper will just start following you.
If you spend too long in a single room.
Yeah. So you can't just stay at the lowest area and grind out the strongest enemies, right?
Mm-hmm. Can you kill that thing?
Yeah.
Oh. I was super...
But once you hit level 60, you can probably kill it. Yeah. And it gives you a fat stack of experience, and gold.
Maybe I'll try to kill it.
Yeah, you should. I
I've
never
seen
went
it
for
once,
it.
though.
Yeah, and
I dozed off, and then I woke up, and it was right there coming at me, because it's a different model than all the other enemies. All the enemies have the same model in the overworld, and then they take on their true form. I was like, oh my god, what is coming at me?
Yeah.
Because I literally just woken up, and it was coming at me.
That's incredible.
And I forgot about that mechanic entirely, because it almost never happens.
Yeah.
Like, even if you're walking through every floor, it really requires so much time for that thing to come through.
Yeah.
And I just totally forgot. I was like, oh my god, what's happening? Of course it one-shot my whole party.
Of course it did. Yeah. It uses that to kind of incentivize you to get moving, but then you'll eventually run out of SP, and sure, you can use your items, but those are items you're not going to have later. Especially early game, it really forces you to use your time wisely. Mm-hmm. Even when it's, because as long as you're Mementos, it's just still that one block of time for that day. But, technically it's two, because until you get Kawakami.
Later game, which I did pretty early on. A lot of people,
but many players, it'll take up 2 time blocks for them basically. But I just love that it lets you determine what you want out of your real world time and that time slot in the game. You are determining what is most valuable to you through Jose, which is a Royal Edition, actually. Just, again, that the value of your time is awesome. I love the focus on something like that.
Yeah, definitely. Couldn't agree more. Don't have much to add, actually.
Okay. Yeah, well, I guess that kind of leads naturally into progression. Like, I'm not a big fan of games where just you level up, and that's it. I think back, I played the original Final Fantasy last year for the first time, and
the only time.
Yeah, the only time so far. I think I'll play it again actually.
What?
One day. It's very good in a weird way. We can talk about it sometime. But what's interesting about that game is, as you level up, it's just numbers, really. It's just numbers. And the only real upgrade happens by doing it has nothing to do with your level. It's just by a quest you can do for Bahamut. And it's just weird, but part of the main conceit of that game is when I could finally like cast, I have a 9th level spell slot or something. It's the same thing as D&D. Like, I didn't care about my leveling up. I cared about being able to cast holy. I cared about being able to, like, so something simple like that. That's not very elegant. That's very simple, right? This game handles progression so well. It's incredible. So not only like as you progress your confidants, that can be considered leveling up in a way. You're getting new abilities, new things are happening as you progress those.
New game mechanics. It doesn't quit giving you game mechanics.
Yeah, it's dumping new game mechanics, which also influences how much you can. Yeah, your confidant level influences the kinds of personas you can make and how strong they'll be.
Well, you can make any persona, but they'll be weak without. I mean, you need a higher level to make persona, but you don't need a confidant to make.
Correct,
a persona.
But I'm going to fuse the one with a higher confidant over another, right? So, not only is it influencing there, but on top of that, you have, as you level up, the personas that you're able to fuse, the personas you're actually able to make. Basically, you can't until you upgrade a certain confidant, you can't fuse a persona that's above your level. So if that persona's base level is above your level, you can't fuse it. You can get around that, but it's expensive. They make you pay a lot of money to be able to do that. And that's only when you get to a certain place with a certain confidant.
Mm-hmm.
But when you kind of look at the overall progression system in Persona 5, it's not just one. There's many. You can progress a specific confidant. You can progress your own kindness in the hopes of being able to progress somewhere else.
Which you didn't progress confidants for a while, right?
There was a period of the game where I didn't realize that when it says, I don't feel like my bond will deepen with this person just yet. I thought it was just the game gating me, but really I needed to spend more time with them. I hadn't answered their questions in a way that, or performed, basically spoken to them in a way during those little scenes where you're having a bonding time with them and you're deepening your confidant relationship. They're the best answers, and if you answer well, then it'll give you more little blue notes, little like music notes, and that determines how much
so there's like
you're
something
bonding
under
with
the
them.
hood, some value under the hood that's increasing, and as let's say there are three, which typically there are three dialogue choices. Some of them will give you a large amount, which 3 is the max, a large amount of whatever that value is. Some of them may give you none, but give you an interesting like reaction from the character, or just give you 1. But those things are increased, again, to a maximum of 3 if you have one of their personas. So like Yusuke being the Emperor, if I have an Emperor persona, I'll get more, I'll be able to build that relationship faster, get more of that experience, whatever it is under the hood. But the multiple choice dialogue is interesting. In the beginning, it really does seem like it's not doing much.
Yeah, it's kind of just getting you acquainted with the fact that you will.
Yeah, and it's not until you get more confident, like a slightly larger pool of confidants than your initial 3, that it really starts to become relevant. Because even the reactions from the characters are almost no different, it seems.
Correct.
But later you get different reactions, you get different levels of experience, and sometimes it's nice to just like crack a joke with someone and see them like, oh, that was unexpected.
Yeah, I agree.
And maybe it wouldn't have been unexpected if I had continued to or previously crack jokes. I don't know. It does seem pretty like a pretty good little system.
Yeah.
Even when you're not giving the ideal response. And I love when Yusuke tries to crack a joke.
Oh, I just love when
reacts to one of your jokes.
Yeah. I just love when Yusuke, in general, he's a great character.
I was at the aquarium with him my last play session, and he expressed being pretty hungry. And we can go get ramen. Like, oh, I know a good ramen spot. I don't know. Do you have money for that? He's a poor, starving artist. And then the other one, we're at the aquarium, and this is after he gets the lobsters from the beach. So one of the options there is, would you like a free sample? Because there's like fish all around. And he's like, wow, I really do value creative solutions, but I don't think we're really allowed to do that right now. And like tries to laugh at your joke, but doesn't even know what laughter
We'll
is.
talk about as we progress in more into the story aspect. I think we'll talk about. He has one of my favorite confidant arcs. I think he's got a really good one. So I think that covers a lot of the basic building blocks. I just like how. I guess let me go back a little bit. I'm sorry. I can't get over this is the experience thing. I spend a lot of time thinking about experience in video games, especially RPGs. And I was thinking about this as I was kind of earlier on in the game, how you pretty much have, the standard XP gain. Every time you fight a battle, you get experience. So you, the player, are determining the difficulty. If you're having a hard time and you're just sick of it, you can just go grind. You're wasting your time, your real world time to do so, but you can go grind and all of a sudden the game's easier. You're setting your own difficulty, right? Which has its benefits and has its drawbacks. There's a reason that it's been in place for so long. And then you have something that's a little bit more abstract, like I think Final Fantasy VIII, right? A more creative system where really in Final Fantasy VIII, if you're leveling up, you're just making the game harder for yourself. Like as you level up, the enemies scale with you, but if you know the junction system really well, you can get endgame spells like really early on, if you know what you're doing. I haven't played 8 yet, so it's kind of it's a very surface level explanation of that system, but the drawback there is replay value is totally out the window, obviously. And then why would I fight? Right, so you kind of have the same and similar problem with Paper Mario. Like, why am I fighting?
Yeah.
Why am I fighting?
That's a big problem.
Right? Mario. So it's kind of these two problems, and Persona addresses it just really elegantly, and many other games have as well. Right? This very simple, elegant approach to experience, how it improves characters, treating it as a resource that is just as valuable as boosting a confidant with someone, that is just as valuable as spending time playing a video game to get your guts up, right? When XP becomes a resource alongside other things, where you're having to choose how you want to spend it, and that's not all the time. If you're in the palace, obviously you're gaining experience points as you progress, right? But really any other time, it's treated the same way and of equal weight. I think that's a really elegant way to address a problem that many RPGs have addressed pretty elegantly.
Now, speaking of elegance, I agree with you, by the way. Making it a resource is a very great solution. And given the other systems, how it interacts with systems, how other systems interact with each other, it alleviates the grind quite a bit.
Absolutely.
But you mentioned
this game's not grindy at all.
No. You can make it grindy, but it's not grindy. If you want to build up a level 20 Persona to 89, you can make it grindy. But you mentioned elegance, and I'd like to break away for a moment and talk about my initial impressions with this game.
Yeah, go ahead.
I talked about the just sheer self-indulgence of this game, and how everything just doesn't quit throwing things in your face. It's so flashy. It's so loud. The music in this, the battle music is a banger. Like that you can stand up and sing at a karaoke bar. It's great. It's not just some simple tune. It's like a really well-produced piece of music, and that's true of a lot of the stuff in this game.
And I mean, the victory theme in my mind is going to be just as iconic as
yeah, of course.
Like it's really it's
so good.
It's so good.
But this, it's not often that a game is not only able to bring quality of life to its series. I mean, games do that often enough, but sometimes, they might not be as good.
Yeah.
This game brings quality of life to the entire genre.
Yes.
There are things here that I don't think JRPGs should not do from now on.
Agreed.
There is a text log for your play session. You can press in the left stick and go back and read anything from the last time you turned off your console.
Or isn't it like
it's a couple days? It's a couple days.
Yeah, it has a limit. I think it's like 100 lines or something. I don't know. It's something like
Is it only? It seems like a lot.
I can
Okay,
look it
maybe
up,
I'm
but yeah.
exaggerating slightly.
It's a lot of text.
But the point is, you can go back and read any line of text up to it does cut off, sure. But it's certainly in an immediate cutscene, if you miss something, if you're pressing too fast, you can go back and see what that was. You can turn on auto scroll text, which I know it's not the first time it's done this. And in fact, I don't think it's the first time it's done any of this. Even the thing that I'm going to say is the most brilliant. It's not the first time. It's just probably the best. So you can press square to let it auto scroll the text and then continue to play the voiced dialogue, which still shows text and you have to, press through it, but you can let it just autoplay like an actual cutscene. And even if it,
So
you
amazing.
press X in conjunction with the auto scroll, you start to go a little faster. You just go back and read it. That's fine. That's great. You've got the fast forward of pretty much anything. If you are not moving your character, if you don't have full control of your character, you can press start and fast forward it. And that's true of actually battles as well. You can just press start and it fast forwards the entire battle. It's just auto physical attacks. But if you come across a weak enemy, press start. Now, other games have done auto battle before, and maybe it does a quick value under the hood and immediately show you the result. Sure, but you can stop this anytime. The combat is happening in real time. Just fast forward it, and you can stop it. Now, I've talked about the UI already. The UI in battle is incredible. Really through the whole game, actually.
Yes.
Even out of battle, the entire controller is used. In fact, some of the times I was pressing other buttons, I'd get a little confused as to which button I was pressing, because it's not common that every button is used on a game like this. You really don't have to scroll through any menus. If you want to attack directly, like a physical attack, you press X.
Face button to
It's
initiate
incredible.
things.
If you want to use an item, you press square. If you want to use a skill, you press triangle. If you want to defend, you press circle. If you want to look at the enemy's info, you press L1. If you want to let the person that sits in the background, the character that like gives you all the information to show you the best move, press R1. If you want to switch characters, L2. And if you want to, there's another move that based on like a critical attack or something you get, R2. All of them are used in battle, and it's so quick. It makes battles super snappy. I don't have to go, scroll down to magic, scroll over to, healing magic. I need this or this or that. I don't have to go through any menus. It's super slick and makes battles almost immediate, even without using the fast forward thing. I'm just pressing a few buttons. Oh, look at that sick ass combo.
Yeah.
In a turn-based JRPG.
I think too, though, that it's mentioned
great.
the only like blemish on this is the vast quantity of items that are not organized.
Oh yes, this is a huge blemish.
Yeah. It's like just have
all
if you
of
could
the
just chunk it
consumable-
into health and SP and
attacks
stats
and then stats.
Yeah, and or just have it chunked. Because
All
otherwise you're just
of the
scrolling through
every
it.
single consumable item in the game has the same icon. And then if it is an HP, if it involves HP, there's a little tag that says HP. If it involves SP, which is your magic, there's a little purple tag that says SP. Very small, still visible. But if you have like raising an enemy from the dead, that doesn't have a tag. If you have an item like, let's say, a bomb or something that does fire damage, that doesn't have a tag. If you have something that raises a stat, or maybe you throw like a poison vial, whatever, it's all the same icon. It's all in the same list.
Which is
And
just
it's
an oversight, it
ridiculous.
seems, based on the quality of everything else.
Especially because in the later part of the game, I started to use those.
Yeah.
Like I actually didn't use a single item in combat until probably
Because they're super beneficial.
70 hours.
If one of
in.
your party members doesn't have an opponent's weakness and you want to knock that
you
opponent
can
down,
throw the firebomb because
It's very
you don't have
good.
any fire members in your party. Yeah, it's great. It does minimal damage, but it does the weak it inflicts the weakness, which allows you to move in with some other combos. All of that is just bunched together. That's stupid.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate. So we're gonna move on to the Velvet Room
I think
here
that's
in a second.
I think people should not play that game because of that.
Because of
That's how
that,
bad it
very
is.
good, Tyler.
That's how bad it is.
Very good.
Yeah. Episode over.
So I wanted to mention this just because I got reminded of it. JRPGs in general often do a poor job of explaining to the player if you have more party members than fit into combat. Like, so a lot of it's 3 or 4, right? That's pretty standard. I've found that many. The first one that really stood out to me was Final Fantasy VII, like the original. Is how many party members should I have? Like, should I be leveling them all up? Should I?
Oh yeah, switching between them and
like,
try to keep them level.
Yeah, like am I gonna have to use the other guys later? Does it want me to just pick my favorites? Like, what does this game want from me? And I found they do a very poor job of explaining that. And I was thinking about that with Persona 5. Thankfully, they level up pretty evenly. I did swap them out, but again, it wasn't communicated very well to me. And so, like, I was just thinking, like, what are some ways to get around that? Like, what are some more elegant methods to use that terminology again? And so I have a couple here.
Okay. I got one. I don't play many JRPGs, but I've got one.
So having a base management system where you can dispatch non-active party members on missions that would keep them at roughly equal levels in case you just swap them out. Yeah, Brotherhood, or I think of Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker 5, sure. Right? Like a base, like integrating a base management system into it.
Yep.
You could even encourage sending your preferred party members on missions by having some other weird bonuses for accomplishing certain missions. Maybe did
Fire Emblem Awakening? No, it's Final Fantasy Tactics does that. You can send
cool.
them on missions.
There we go. I think that's a great idea. Like, none of these are. I even noted here. None of these are original. It's just things that popped in my head.
Sure, you don't know if they're from a game.
Then having a resting bonus where party members who have had some time off the field will come back stronger.
That's a good one.
Right? That way you're supposed to be cycling them, and it's encouraging you to try out new tactics, right? Only making the party members you're using take part in the story. This would improve replayability, right? And then this is the most boring, but just having a group level. Like that, that simplifies it.
Which it does by default, right?
What does?
Persona 5.
No, I just mean like your whole group has one level. Like
you're
all level 70. And that's the most boring out of all those, but I mean it simplifies for the player.
That's quite interesting actually, because what if they all have a group level, but using Yusuke increases the group levels evasion or something.
See, that's a great idea.
That's not really been played with.
No,
because using Yusuke for like a dungeon would then allow someone like Haru to come into the next dungeon with increased, because it's the party's evasion.
Yeah, I think there's, like you said, I think there's just more.
Yeah,
there's things that this problem, which isn't often addressed, can be addressed with by implementing something interesting. Okay. Right? But do you have one you were going to say?
No, I misunderstood the question. I mean, I'll still say it, but it doesn't quite go with the question. Chrono Cross has a what I think to be a very interesting system. You play a lot more JRPGs than I have, but this one is definitely unique to what I've played.
Okay. Which I need to play it.
We'll get there. We'll play it together.
Yeah.
I love Chrono Cross. It's a bit convoluted, but whatever. So there are no random battles. You can just go to something on the overworld, get in a battle. You can only have I think it's 3 party members in this game. They're the only ones that increase stats, but there's no experience. There's no levels. An enemy, let's say, it doesn't matter. An enemy, when you kill it, gives you an increase to a stat up to a threshold. So if you're already past 20, this thing is not going to give you any more. If you're from like 15 to 20, it gives you 1.
I like that a lot.
But only for the party members that are currently equipped, and at every story beat, you get like it's represented in a star. It gives you a star that is a party-wide increase to, I don't know if it's a particular set of stats. Ooh, we're getting into this.
Yeah, keep going.
I don't remember if it's a particular set of stats, but through every boss you beat, sub boss, whatever, anytime there's a story beat or some optional content, you get a star that increases every party member. Because there's a lot. There's like 50. It's encouraged to just like have fun with.
Got it.
Some of them are objectively better. Some of them are God mode, but you can have fun with them, and it encourages that. But if you need to swap out someone,
Sure.
they at least have close to what everybody else has.
That's awesome. I think that's great.
I think it's a pretty good one.
So
Yeah.
let's, because we're hitting around probably what I expect to be the halfway point. So I wanted to bring out, in honor of an incredible Japanese developer, the last of my Hakushu 12 year. We both had this. This is probably our favorite from them. This is their 12 year of, they have a distillery up in the mountains in Japan, and they this is Suntory, so the guys who do Yamazaki and Hibiki. And this one doesn't seem to be as popular as those, which is a shame. It's verdant is the word they go for.
I don't know if I have had this.
Yeah, this is that one that was like a little smoky and
Maybe it just smells harsher because it's been at the end.
yeah,
of the
it is
bottle.
the end of the bottle. But no, this was the one that you said was your favorite.
Okay, all right. Yeah, it just smells harsher than I remember.
It actually tastes much lighter. It has lost some of its flavor just because it's at the end of the bottle, but it's smoky. It's very springy. Lots of wood and a little bit of herb in there. It's just a really interesting whiskey. That Japanese oak really comes through on this one. I love it. It's definitely the smokiest of Suntory's main lines. It's a delight. It's an absolute delight. I'm so grateful that I found it for retail price. That was a huge win.
What is retail price on that?
I think 80.
Wow.
It's pretty, because Hibiki's 60, that's 80. I think Yamazaki is 120. At least it was when I bought these.
No, it's still.
This is
very
Texas
good.
prices.
Still
Yeah,
very
this is really, a little honey on there too.
Mhm.
It's a huge. This is one of my all-time favorites. I love it. So thank you, Persona 5. You're the best for making me break this out.
Also for other reasons.
Yes,
Honestly, we do love this game. I have nitpicks. If listen, I am much more ready to talk about what I dislike about a game, or even look for flaws.
Yeah, he's definitely
than
the
Zach is.
analytical portion of this. Like, picture critique. He's the critique side, and I'm definitely more the weird artsy celebration side. Like the guy who's talking about the wonders of the banal. And, right,
I mean, it's great. I love those things too. I
Sure.
don't catch them as often. Well, I don't catch them in the kinds of games you play.
Sure.
I catch, I'm the one who's going to share with you Shadow and Florence.
Yeah. You didn't even have to say it.
Yeah. I love Florence, dude.
No, absolutely. But I mean, it's just kind of, and I think that's what helps this cast maintain a lot of interest is you are going to be nitpicky in ways that I'm like, I didn't even think about that for like a half second. I was just enjoying the game. Like, I was off thinking about, the two lobsters that I'm holding purely for aesthetic purposes.
It's great. But, I will see like, oh, I know how you could have fixed this. I don't know why you didn't fix this. It's
Sure.
easy. Like, why does Pokemon still have, like, when you do a critical hit on a Pokemon? No, I don't think it does anymore, actually. So that's good. When you do a critical hit, that takes away pretty much all of their health. It goes super fast. But if you take out the last little bit of health, it goes super slow. Because I forget what
It's a
it's
percentage
called.
thing.
I forget what exactly it's called. It's like a linearly interpreted time, like a LERP or something. I forget what it's called. But decreasing the health from max to 0 takes a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
So when it's max, it goes really quick. It takes the exact same amount of time to go from 1% to 0%.
Yeah.
So
That's
why
funny.
it goes, fix it.
Yeah,
Well, they have now, but they didn't for many years. So I notice all of that stuff, and I hate it. And I'm going to call it out.
Good,
I'm going to call out 5-7 menus deep
You should,
in the Velvet Room. Let me hold circle. Let me press that button once.
if you're not able to call out your favorite games, I don't think you're thinking about them critically enough. I think you think more critically than I do. And that's something that I wish I could do a lot of the times, but I'm also grateful sometimes that I don't.
Be grateful.
But like, I mean, if you
Rejoice in your innocence.
my favorite game of all time, I can acknowledge has like a metric ton of problems, like just a mass amount of problems.
Metal Gear Solid 5?
Yeah, it has huge problems, but
Was it 5 we hung up?
yeah, we hung up 5. It has a massive amount of problems, and I am the first one to point them out. But what it accomplishes is so unique and done better than anything else that's tried to accomplish those.
Like this.
Yeah, I will just hold on to that forever. But absolutely. But let's if you're done there, let's move on to, we're gonna wrap up the gameplay mechanic stuff. I know we've been talking about it for a while. And I know the people who are itching for us to talk about our favorite parts of the story and characters and stuff we'll get there. We're almost there.
Almost.
Let's talk about the Velvet Room, which is where you go to create and fuse and strengthen anything Persona. You go there. You basically enter this room, and you have a couple options depending on where you are with your strength confidant. You can basically, the basic thing you can do is fuse personas. You can take one persona and run down a list and see what happens, what persona is created when you fuse it with another. And you can only fuse personas that match or are below your current level, unless you have a certain, I think it's rank 5 in Royal Strength Confidant, and then you just have to pay like 100,000.
It's crazy that it was rank 10.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was rank 10 in the base game, so you can surpass your level, but it's going to be really expensive, and it's a good little limiter. So you're not getting a level 90 at level 25. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. But yeah, they so you can fuse personas, and that's great because every persona has a trait, and that trait is just a simple, do extra 20% damage for attacks that target all enemies. Your technical damage is boosted by 25%. All ice skills cost 50% less SP. Things like that. But and you can capture many of the personas just fighting it in battles, right? You can just go and you're fighting them. If you knock them all down, you have a chance to interact with them, and you can take them and add them to your party. But they won't be as strong as a fused persona, because a fused persona will inherit the skill. Like, you can choose which skills you want to inherit and which trait you want to inherit, or just take that persona's default trait from the fusion. So after you've fused like 4 or 5 times, you're ending up with a persona that, like, my registry of personas of, if I were to call a certain persona up and pay for it just to have it back, it's probably going to look really different than Tyler's if that's one that I fused, because I fused him with the intent of being a caster or a support persona, or pass down my favorite skill in the whole game, immunity, just total immunity to
everything.
No, it's all status effects.
Oh, okay.
It's from the alien, that weird alien one from Okumura's Palace, the one that you said is an ancient depiction of an alien. Yeah, that guy. So I gave immunity to like some really strong persona, just has immunity,
which is Claydol from Pokemon.
It basically is Claydol. Yeah,
it is. I mean, that's what Claydol is based on. Supposedly, it's a depiction of an alien that visited Japan in ancient times.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I passed down immunity to a couple personas. You'll end up with an ice skill that this persona should never have had, right? Just really interesting things that you can. So your fused personas will be stronger than any that you just grab from the wild. So fusion is really important. You know a lot about strengthening personas.
Yes, I do. I got super low level personas, like 20s, in the 20s. I only traded them out just before this podcast, in my last like hour-long session in the Velvet Room,
which is crazy.
I just kept leveling them up because honestly, we talked about the disposability. I mentioned briefly the disposability of each persona because they come default when you catch them an ability and a couple of skills, 2 to 5 maybe. They can have a maximum of 8, but they just come with a few things. They have their little niche. You need a wind attack. Go catch this guy. He's got a wind attack for you. Whatever. I don't want to cycle through 15 personas just to find a wind attack. I want to have an elite killing squad. But even if I didn't, the game's pretty easy. The game is not about the challenge. So personas are pretty disposable. I didn't find anything in this like section of the game that I liked more than these. One of them being Principality, which is just like if God had sent down an angel, but the angel was the Statue of Liberty. It's really just like regal and terrifying. It is justice, just like the Statue of Liberty. This persona is the personification of justice. And I thought she was so badass. I love her. And I just kept leveling her up. She had my healing skills, so I didn't need the healing party member. She had holy skills, so I don't need the holy party member, which I'm about to get, which is unfortunate because I want to use that party member, but she will be largely redundant. Got another guy that does both psychic and heavy physical damage. Excuse me. So I was able to inflict some sort of mental illness on the enemy, come in with a psychic ability, which does extra damage to mentally inflicted opponents, and then while they're down, come in with some sweeping heavy attacks, physical attacks, and then 2 others that I'm using. I just build them up to do the thing I want them to do instead of having a bunch of little niches.
Yeah. And the game really I think this is why I do like how easy the game is instead of feeling like just a breeze of a game, it feels like I'm given a lot of opportunities to just break it with overly strong personas. When you fuse a persona that just wrecks shop, like it has everything you could ever want it to have, it boosted its level like 10 levels over what you're at. I think of the Bugs, the little bear with the skulls.
Yeah, I didn't use it.
I used him so much, and he just stomped everything for so long. It just gave me a lot of joy, and honestly, the combat encounters and how snappy combat is, how quick it is. I never felt, bored by it. I think that the game doesn't overstay in that area, and I'd be curious to see what harder difficulties would bring. I'm curious, but I've done a lot of research, and it says Persona's not the game for that. Like the mainline SMT games seem to be where you get that.
I present this as a complaint, which it is, but I do enjoy the pace. I'm not going to increase the difficulty. The game is not made for that. So sure, I can increase the difficulty. That's not the purpose of the game. If I want that game, go play the other SMT games, which honestly I might enjoy more for the gameplay. I love the dating sim aspect of this game. But I was watching a video of SMT3, which is coming out soon. You have your main character and 3 personas. You have a party of personas. So the 2 that I mentioned, and then the other one that I use pretty regularly, she has a bunch of abilities that deal elemental damage to everyone. So I've got 5 different elements, and her or 5 skills that deal elemental damage, and an ability that increases elemental damage that targets all foes. So those definitely play off of each other. But then I can deal like fear on all foes. Then she has a unique ability that's only to this one that instantly kills everyone who is inflicted with fear. But that infliction of fear is increased by her ability. She's awesome. So instead of cycling through those and having these party members, I will probably enjoy and certainly get more fulfillment out of putting the time into those personas.
Sure, that's fair.
That's the thing. It's the time I put in.
Way more time in the Velvet Ring.
So much more time. And that's the thing.
Because so the main problem is, he has this persona that was level 29. He got it up to level 80, whatever. And personas stop learning new moves after about 5 or 6 levels. Like they're encouraging you to fuse, but through the strengthen mechanic and the card mechanic. So strengthen means you can sacrifice a persona to boost the experience, like to give experience points to another persona.
Based on the confidant system again.
Yeah, and so the better you are with that confidant, the more it'll boost their experience, and the higher level of the persona you're sacrificing, obviously the more experience that you'll get. And it'll boost certain stats for that persona as well. And then there's a chance that they'll inherit a skill from the sacrificed persona. And you can also itemize personas. So you can sacrifice a persona to turn it into an item. Sometimes a card that's basically like a TM from Pokemon, right? It just teaches the move to that persona. It could also become a whip for An, a gun for Yusuke, right? It can become a couple different things. But through those cards, you can also spend them to keep your persona up to date with the stronger moves. So, you have the low-level moves, like Garu, just the base wind move, but then, you have the max one, like Garadine, right? That's the strongest wind move. So there's low damage, medium damage, high damage for magic moves. And then severe damage. I think only physical goes up to colossal damage. But you have all the way up to severe. And so, obviously, as the game scales, as the enemies get stronger, light damage is going to do nothing to them. So you have to keep them, up to date with the moves. But you can, and the game allows for it through these two systems. And Tyler spent a lot of time. I did that
because so first of all, there were like 20 levels where I didn't actually like a persona more than the ones I had. Principality is awesome. She's so cool. Okay? I agree. Badass angels. They're cool. And so I didn't like anything to replace her. Things were objectively better. So I just used that to give her better stats.
And then eventually
I get to level 70. I'm looking at level 70 personas and I'm like, now they aren't good enough because my level 29 persona, which is now 89, is just better.
Yeah.
And sure, they might have a skill that I can't get any other way. I can't pass it down. It's unique to that ability, or unique to that persona. It's not enough, though, because I put so much time into this persona, and that's the only thing that is better. Stats are severely lower than Principality, and I've already built her the way I want her. Until I did finally find one that not only... she's got lower stats, still has lower stats, but I'm able to build it quicker, like at a quicker pace, which is also, I don't know, but I think the rate of increasing stats slows down.
Oh, does it?
Or higher, not level personas, but just like higher personas. I don't know how to explain it, because even though Principality is level 89, she's level 29 persona. Sure. So a persona that by default is level 70.
That's her base level.
Yeah. So a persona that by default is level 70 earns more stat points. So I've been able to increase that quicker. But not only that, it was just a natural progression of Principality into Dominion. It's another sicko mode angel.
Badass angel, yeah.
Yeah. That is doing similar things. So I was able to do that finally in my last session.
Yeah.
Anyway, invested a lot of time. I already forgot what we're talking about just because I think Principality is awesome.
No, that's totally fine. We're just talking about strengthening personas. So, we've talked about everything in the Velvet Room pretty much. I wanted to mention.
I did. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I just forgot what I was going to say. I talked about the fulfillment factor. I put all this time into Principality and a few others to make them awesome. But I could do that. I could still get through the game just as easily in a multitude of ways. So even though, you fuse up and keep fusing up and you get this awesome level 90 Shinra style dragon that does severe lightning damage to everyone and also increases your attack. Whatever. Just something awesome. Sure, you did that. But you could have also gotten through the game and killed the same enemies with anything else.
Sure.
So it's the fulfillment factor, and I go back to one of my favorite moments in games is when you and I played Fire Emblem Awakening. I'll never stop talking about them. Those gorgeous women. So I played almost the entire game with exclusively Pegasus Knights. So Pegasus Knights are exclusively females. They fly. They're super vulnerable to bows. God forbid. But they have seemingly the highest or almost the highest agility in the game. So they're hard to hit. But got to hook them up with a hubby. Get that hubby in the same square. They fly around. You get those stats from their husband. And then if you're next to another couple, So I had like 6 or 7. I had all of the Pegasus Knights and their husbands all next to each other, and I could just sweep across the entire field and destroy everything because I'm hitting like 4 times. Like they have whatever stat allows them to attack together super high with the women. So you get to do that. But then if you also have that relationship with another Pegasus Knight or whoever's next to them, they swoop in and attack. And then like their husband will jump in and block. They're nuts. I completely broke the game. But the game is already super difficult. At least for me. I know fans will beg to differ. Will more than beg. But it's inherently a difficult game. So it was very fulfilling to be able to do that. Breaking Persona 5 is just doing another thing that you could have done anyway with something else.
And I guess my argument from there is, yes, I understand that. I get it, that you could have just done another way, but doing it your way is so satisfying, right? Doing it, like, getting bugs and making sure he had exactly what he had because of how I was, crafting Personas before him. Getting Odin way too early, right? And just being able to bring him into places he shouldn't have been yet. Like, I don't know, like, for me, because
it's
of
fun.
Like,
of course it's
but my
fun.
point is that would not be fun in something like Final Fantasy. That would not be fun in many other JRPGs. The speed and the pace, not only the pace of combat, but the overall pacing of when you're fighting and when you're not in this game, I was always having fun in combat.
Mm-hmm.
And that transitions really well to the next topic. Combat itself. I think because of the structure of combat, it just works. So pretty much almost every enemy will have a weakness to one type of damage. There's physical, gun, psychic, nuke, fire, the standard stuff. Curse, holy. And many of them will have 1 or 2 weaknesses. And if you find that weakness and you hit them with that weakness, they will get knocked down. It'll say a big old weak I was supposed to say item. A big old weak a notification will appear, and they'll fall down. And if you manage to knock the entire enemy party down, you have a couple options. You can talk to them to try to negotiate with them. If you haven't gotten them yet as a persona, you have to go through a little dialogue with them. Not all the time. There are confidants that let you bypass that.
But by default, that's how you catch them.
Yeah, you talk with them, and as long as they have certain personalities, and you have to kind of give the right responses to make sure that lines up with what their personality wants to hear. And if you answer correctly twice, if you can mess up a little bit on the first one, but if you answer the second one right and you didn't really mess up the first one, they'll join your party. If you kind of mess up a little bit too much, they'll give you an item, and if you really mess up, you'll go back to combat. Or you can tell them to give you money, and you can keep pressing them. If you press them too hard, it'll go back to combat. Or you do an all-out attack. So if you recruit them, you don't get much experience or gold. If you get them to give you gold, you don't get much experience. But if you do an all-out attack and just kill all of them, if they're weak enough, they'll just die. If they're strong, it'll just do a lot of damage. And you'll get all the experience from that encounter, right? If you just do your all-out attack. So really, the flow and the pace of combat is to knock the enemy down, especially because it's the SMT thing, right? The one more mechanic. If you hit an enemy with their weakness, or rather, if you knock them down at all, because there are other ways to knock them down, but hitting their weakness is the main one, you get to go again. And in Persona 5, you can pass a baton, which means you just press a button, and instead of you going again, you pass it to another teammate. This boosts their damage output and any healing output that they would do. As you increase by playing darts with your party, playing darts with your party,
So going to the bar and actually playing darts.
Yeah, with your party, you boost the benefits of passing the baton until it's just incredibly powerful.
And so this is one of the ways that the real world infects the cognitive world, or affects the cognitive world. When you're playing darts, you're not playing competitively. You play cooperatively to meet a very particular goal in this version of darts. Yeah. So you're building that cooperative proficiency, and that translates into combat in the metaverse.
Yeah, absolutely. And what that, and when you get to max rank with a confidant, the damage output on like someone like Ryuji or Yusuke is just nuts. And some moves actually get even bonus damage if you use it after baton pass. Yusuke gets a lot of those. It's really good. And so you can keep, if you pass the baton all the way through, you are doing huge damage, just massive.
But you can
damage.
only pass it to the fourth. You can't pass it back to the first, right?
Yeah, you can't pass it back to someone.
So
you have to
up
pass
to
it through
3
the whole
times.
party. But then your turn just keeps going after the baton pass is done. Like, it's just extra turns basically every time you hit an enemy's weakness. If an enemy has no weaknesses, or there's you just try to knock them down a different way, hitting them with a status ailment. Either you have the classic status ailment. In this one they call it like despair. The enemy will pass their turn and lose SP. You have sleep, where they'll pass their turn and heal a little bit,
which is an interesting little touch. I wouldn't even call it a mechanic, but your enemy healing while asleep is interesting.
I agree. When it hits their turn, they heal. Stuff like that. So those are what I'd call mental ailments, like psychic ailments. And all of those, if you hit the enemy with a psychic move while they're infected by one of those, you get a technical. And a technical, you get bonus damage, and depending on how good you are at pool in the real world, determines how much bonus damage the technical does. But it'll actually knock them down. So that's how you knock down enemies without a weakness. There's also the elemental status ailments. So shock, lightning has a chance to shock. Ice has a chance to freeze, fire a chance to burn. And each one of those have something. So if you freeze them and hit them with a physical or gun move, it's a chance for a technical.
Same thing with electric.
Yeah, electric is another physical one. Fire, it's wind. If you use wind on them, it'll be a technical. So little things like that honestly I think are really well implemented. Not just having, okay, now this is a status ailment move, and now I'm just going to keep doing what I always do after, I'm just going to keep using my attack because I'm an attack person. It's like, let me pass the baton here and have them use an item to hit that enemy's weakness so I can keep my turn going. Mm-hmm. Let me infect everyone with the status ailment and then do a mass psychic move to just do huge damage. Let me burn everyone, like increase my burn chances, burn everyone, and then have Morgana come back and do a mass wind attack on them.
And so like if you do that, do forget on everyone, which is a mental ability, then use your psychic, and if it hits everybody, if they get knocked down, that's when the like catching mechanic, the negotiation happens, or you can do your all-out attack.
Yeah.
So it's super satisfying to come in and set up your party that way to inflict forget. Okay, I might even like just maybe block with everyone so it cycles back around to me.
Sure.
And do that. So yeah, setting those things up.
And like Makoto, like, so all the party members have something that influences the whole party as their persona's trait. So your persona's trait usually just affects you. But all the other like when Makoto is in battle, there is a greater chance, I think it's 25% chance extra, that a burn, shock, or freeze will occur.
Oh, that's what's going on. I recently switched her out, and Yusuke is not freezing people as often.
Oh.
I've got 2 items on him that are increasing his freezing, but a noticeable drop once I removed her.
Yeah, so Makoto has that one. Ryuji, an extra 40%, a chance for an extra 40% physical damage.
That's pretty good.
For any party member, including himself, I think. No, not himself, but the other party members. Just stuff like that, so you're also considering who's in your party,
Now, do the personas skills, their passive skills, also cover the whole party?
I believe they're passive. No,
only
I'm
the passive
positive.
ability.
Yeah, so only the trait. Yeah, only
that's
the
what,
trait.
Yeah,
influences, because it specifically says the party gets, or like whatever. So yeah, combat's really this is a pretty standard SMT combat from what I understand, and I get why they keep going with it. It's so clean. It's so much more than just casting spells or hitting and trying to do big damage.
Definitely.
And there's more considerations than just, oh, they're paralyzed, let me keep hitting them now. It's like, oh, they're paralyzed. Oh, I can switch out and do this person. Oh, and then I can try this. Oh, but this person's out of their gunshots. Let me switch to someone who has guns. Or use a gun skill.
You can only do that if you get a completely optional, totally, literally tucked off to the side character, and you start building a relationship with her.
Yep, she's the only character that you
Back
switch
to that
out party members
modularity of the
actively.
mechanics. It's great. Did you even make any cards with Yusuke?
Not till the end of the game. And
It's
I was
great.
like, why didn't I do this
It's
the whole
great.
rest of the game?
And then one of his later skills allows him to just remake. So he doesn't make cards; he copies them. You have to already have it. He'll come back the next day with a copy of it, and then you have to remove it from your inventory. Then he gives you both back. And then later on, he gets one that just lets you make anything that he's made before. And then later on, he just does it immediately. He's like, "Yeah, here's a quick sketch. Get on my face." It's
Yusuke
great.
would never say that.
He would never do that.
Yeah, Yusuke is bae.
Yes, we love Yusuke.
Yeah. So for
You
me,
the way we talk about men on this show, I wonder how we're not homosexual.
it's honestly incredible.
Because we love Yusuke.
Yeah, really, a lot. He's amazing. For me, so the moment, my wife played this whole game with me. So I'm sitting there, and there's the whole Hawaii scene. Or not Hawaii, is it the whole beach scene, rather? So they're at the beach.
So why?
No, this is before Hawaii. They're just at the beach with Futaba. Yeah, it's two separate incidents.
Okay, yeah,
and
you're right.
So Yusuke, first of all, Yusuke, like, it's like the close up of the girls, and Anspa has her bikini on, like all the classic, stuff you'd expect from a game like this. But then you cuts to the guys, Ryuji and the main character just, in their swim shorts or whatever. Yusuke is in board shorts and a white hoodie.
With his hood on.
With the hood on. And I
fully zipped up.
And I turned to my wife and I go, Amanda, I love this game. It just hit me how much I actually care about these characters. He comes back he had spent the last of his money on
again, poor, broke college student.
Yeah, on 2 live lobsters. And he's like, friends, look what I've found. And so Futaba and a couple others like, oh, wow, they're going to taste so good. He's like, taste good? These are purely for aesthetic purposes. And he's holding it away from them.
I love their banter because they do not click, Yusuke and Futaba. But they're little sibling banter. They're not siblings, but they quickly become like siblings.
Yes, absolutely.
He reposes her action figures when you're all in her room, and she's just mortified that, oh my god, one of the hands popped out of its socket, and you accidentally dropped him off the shelf.
And he's like, but it objectively looks better.
And he talks like that too. He's got this weird deep voice. But it's also very soothing.
It's deep and airy.
Yeah, it's deep and airy and soothing.
Yeah, he's great. His voice actor nails it.
Oh, he's really good. He's really prominent.
Oh, for some reason I don't recognize him.
I forget. Dang it, I'm drawing a blank.
So I'm obviously
the DM on Critical Role.
That's what you were telling me about this. I remember that. I only started listening to Critical Role after Last of Us 2, shortly before Last of Us 2.
With Laura Bailey.
Yeah. So anyway, little tangent, but yeah, I love Yusuke. I'd probably date Yusuke if I could. Yeah, he's amazing. There's a video I was watching, just one of those silly, this guy's going through his comments and reading people they'd pair up, just fan shippings that are happening. And one of the top comments is the guy's like, I really hope that Yusuke never gets with anyone and refers to himself for all eternity as a Sigma male. Believing that everyone understands what that means. I was like, that is quality.
Never explaining it, just,
yeah.
Oh, yes, I'm a Sigma male.
Yeah, just so quality. That matches him really well. But yeah, so... we're going to get to the story here really quick. I just wanted to mention a couple things. So, dungeoning outside of combat, there's not a lot going on there. You kind of have to sneak your way through. There's a meter at the top. If you're seen by guards, instead of ambushing them, the meter will increase. The more it increases, the more... Every time you get in a battle, you just have to fight 1 round of enemies. But if it's too high, you have to fight more and more and more until it reaches 3 or 4 rounds of enemies at 100%, which is honestly a huge pain because you're not getting much more experience out of it.
I think you're getting the same amount of experience, right?
I don't think you do. I think it's actually...
you definitely get a lot of money. At that point in the game, I wasn't concerned much about experience. I was getting money, and you can loot that stuff so
true.
well, knock them down, and then say, give me your money. You know, and if you've got
Sure.
the politician up, occasionally
It'll just let you take all of it from them.
well,
Right?
so
It's like you can just keep like it's a guarantee.
not always, no. So it's a guarantee they will give you a lot more money. So
That's
instead
what
of
it
like
is.
8,000, it'll be 25,000. But then you can do that 2 or 3 times, and then go ahead and press that luck because they're going to call more friends. Kill that one and do it again with the next one.
Yeah.
And you can exit a battle with 200,000.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
It's pretty good
It is
stuff.
pretty good.
But yeah, so there's that meter, so you have to kind of like sneak around. They're like hiding behind little barriers, mechanics, simple stuff like that. You're thieves. You're the Phantom Thieves. You're stealing
Very
stuff.
simple traversal.
Yeah, you're the Phantom Thieves. You're stealing people's hearts, you know. So it's very simple stealth mechanics. Even if you even want to call them stealth,
I wouldn't.
sometimes, right? There's exploration in Royal. They have scattered some will seeds, is what they call them. There's 3 in every dungeon. If you collect all 3, you get a super powerful item. Afterwards.
Powerful for that time in the game.
I don't know about that. I used Kanashiro's the whole game.
What?
Is the
Kanashiro's
Vault
the
Guardian
first one?
No, third.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the one that increases defense for all party members, but also boosts defense for that character, just flat out at the beginning of the round. It's fantastic.
Wait, also boost defense at the beginning?
Yeah, so like all of them have 2 effects. They have the spell they give you, and like will increase a certain stat at the beginning of the round.
What am I not reading?
Because
I thought it was just that skill. I was like, Yusuke already has the skill. I don't need this.
No. So like all of them will boost one of those stats for them permanently. So like anyway, yeah. So there's
early game. The first one you get is it does lose its potency.
Sure, that's fair. I get that. But I used Kanashiro's the whole game on Morgana. It was really great.
I didn't use Morgana. We had totally different party makeups.
Yeah, well, I switched mine out a lot too. But my final boss party was Ryuji, Morgana, Joker, and Makoto.
I have used Morgana like 3 times.
Morgana's great, dude.
Well, I already built Joker to do that thing.
Sure, that's fair.
He does all the heal
at all.
The only thing he doesn't have is fully heal all party members. He only has single right now.
Oh, okay.
So if I can get that, he will be Morgana will be rendered useless.
Fantastic.
Well, I don't have any wind. I just have items for wind.
Also, though, those were 3 of the 4 that I had maxed Confidant with, which helps a lot for combat.
Well, you can only get Morgana maxed through the story, right?
Yeah, but by the end boss, I had
Yeah.
had it maxed. So yeah, I had Yusuke, Morgana, Makoto, and Ryuji all maxed out. So, dude, Ryuji, God, that man did so much damage.
I should have been working on my main party members, like On is level 4 or 5.
Oh man,
maybe.
no!
But
you use
On has literally not
exclusively.
left my party.
Yeah,
Because even, dude, I did 300 damage on a enemy resistant to fire. She's nuts.
yeah, she's crazy.
And also her like charm ability.
Oh, it's so funny.
It's so good.
Hey.
Sure, but it triggers so often.
Yeah, it triggers all the time.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's really good. So yeah, there's some simple puzzles, nothing too complex, and that's pretty much it for the gameplay. Like there's obviously more. There's the Showtime abilities. There's a lot in this game, and we could go through every confidant, but I mean, it's just
We'll
a
go through some of our
brilliantly designed game.
It's very
It
good.
really is. Like,
Again, 120 hours in, at least for me. I'm clocked in at 173 right now or something. But, not considering the times that it's just been running, probably 120 to 140. I'm still not tired of it. I'm excited to go back and finish it, which I know I say a lot on this podcast. I am pressed for time a lot, or maybe I just don't put as much time in as Zach does.
So he's been living with me for the past couple days while his house is being shown, and I've noticed that the way that you spend time in games is very different than I sit down, and until I don't get up for a break, a snack, like I sit down and I play that game until I go, I have now accomplished the time that I wanted to spend in this game, and then I get up and do something else. Like, you're very much like, oh, okay, let's go finish prepping this thing. Okay, now come back. Like, let's do this now. And which is fine. Like, that's the way to do it. But, like, I think I'm a little bit more single-minded about it.
Well, that's during work time.
Sure, but, like, I don't know. I think that your mind seems to be able to jump a lot to different places. You might have your phone out. You might be checking something. Like, I am pretty much, if I'm sitting down playing a game, like, Amanda will have to, like, yank me out of the chair to be like, go do the dishes. Like, you know, I'm very single-minded about
I
it.
wish I could spend more. Yeah, usually I'm not checked out of a game.
No.
But usually I have to avert attention just briefly every 45 minutes or so.
But it's also why he's much more plugged into things surrounding video games than I am.
Yeah, and then politics as well. I pay attention to the news.
I don't pay attention to any of that garbage.
Yeah,
like,
I'm sending you tech news like, oh, dude, have you seen the new Apple tags?
And I'm like,
or the lawsuit that's going on with like Apple and Tile.
Yeah.
It's not a lawsuit yet.
Yeah, and I, like, for me, like, that is so far removed, like, from what I'm even thinking about. I'm very single-minded, so.
I was thinking about that just today, actually. I'm going to try to just play my video games. Because now I've got 3 on the backlog. I mean, I've got 700 on the backlog, but I haven't finished the past 3 games. I haven't finished Persona, Mega Man,
Mask.
or Majora's Mask. All of them right there at the end.
Yeah, you're right at the end.
With all of them.
You should finish this one first, though.
Mega Man is bottom of that list, unfortunately.
Just
not because I didn't want to play it, but because that was a very particular sense of momentum that after the cast was gone.
Yeah.
It's very hard to go back and pick up from where I left off.
Yeah, because it's a deck builder. Like, you gotta know your deck, gotta get back in the flow.
Yeah.
And it's an action one, too.
Yep.
So get back to the flow of that. I totally get that.
It's
Like, I
hard.
couldn't pick up again and be as good as I was right before I put it back down. Which I'm happy to report, 100%, all 7 stars. You can check the Twitter, photo evidence. I did it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I've never actually truly 100% of that game because the last time I tried to, I was an idiot and I couldn't find the last Yo-Yo 3 chip to get the program advance for it, but I got it, and I beat Alpha Omega.
What do you need the program advance for?
You need a full library, every single program advance filled out in order to...
Wait, but I thought the program advances just happened if you have them in your hand.
No, you have to, like, so you build them out of your hand, so, like, sword, wide sword, long sword.
Yeah.
This is Mega Man. Sorry, we'll talk about this a little later. Persona 5 is...
Let's talk about this on the break, which we should take is before we go into narrative.
Okay, narrative's next, so you want to take a quick break?
I do want to take a quick break, so we'll be back. Just want to give a quick shout out. We are back. It's been 7 or 8 weeks. We're so happy to be back.
Yeah.
If you do stumble upon this video and have made it this far, or I guess this audio feed, this podcast being fed into your ear holes right now, do consider giving us a review. Don't ever do that on the podcast again. A review on your platform of choice, a like on YouTube. It's a great help. Visit us on Instagram and on Twitter. Now, Instagram's been a little barren since we've started this, but we are about to come back strong.
Good stuff.
And consider backing us for $2 on Patreon to get access to our Discord. We're trying to build a community there.
Yeah, be
Very
one of the
small
first.
right now.
Be one of the first.
We want to hear about your sicko mode persona builds. Principality level 89 is pretty cool. I don't think anything is cooler, but $2, prove me wrong.
Yeah,
Okay?
There we go. Easy.
And maybe jump in with some of the games we're playing next. We'll be playing 2 much shorter games, 4 hours each, 4 and 5, which we'll talk about later.
Yes, we will.
But
sounds good, man.
Yeah, join us in a couple minutes or immediately after this, and we'll be back.
Back.
Welcome back to the Unpatched Gaming Podcast. Back from our break.
Yes.
Here to talk about Persona 5 Royale and all of the wonderful characters, many of the wonderful characters, and the narrative.
Yeah, so here there be
narrative.
deep spoilers.
Deep spoilers. Get the hell out
Spoilers.
if you care about that sort of thing.
Yeah, and play this game. and come back to us in 120 hours.
120 at the very least.
At the very least. So we're just going to go palace by palace. So I think you and I both agree that the best palace in the game is actually the very first.
Yes, 100%.
I think it's a combination of me it's Kamoshida's palace. So he is a volleyball coach at the school that you've been transferred to because you were wrongfully accused by a very powerful politician, and you ended up having to transfer schools. This school is where you meet a lot of your friends that you'll have throughout the course of the game. But there's a volleyball coach who's like he's an Olympic athlete, and he's pushing this team, to the extreme. Like, they're winning everything. But there's rumors of abuse, both sexual and physical, and everybody's kind of turning a blind eye to it. This results eventually. So the game handles very touchy subject matter tactfully and honestly very maturely. Like, it's able to wrestle with those concepts without feeling facile or just just using it to, be interesting. Like, it's genuinely asking interesting questions. One of the students ends up trying to commit suicide because of this abuse. This spurns on into action in a lot of ways, gets her into the party. There's just a lot of really interesting. I guess you're so close to it for so long, and it's the intro palace.
For a long time. It's a pretty good chunk of the game.
Yeah, and you're really getting acquainted with the systems, and you get to know this guy, this scumbag, this trash nugget so intimately.
Trash nugget.
And the design of the palace reflecting your school, this place that you go to every day, basically. And it's a castle, right? It's this huge castle, and he's in this robe and these pink, like, tighty-whitey, like, it's just really gross, hairy legs, the whole 9 yards.
Just like Vincent in his boxers. Dude, I can't wait for you to play Catherine. It's so bizarre that game became one of my favorite. Like
it's very odd.
At least 20, possibly 10.
That's crazy.
I love it.
But Kamoshida, I think, has the strongest emotional tie. Like, the emotional resonance you have because of the situation and how close you are to it, combined with, honestly, for me, a design decision that so closely aligns with the themes of sexual perversion.
Mm-hmm.
The mini boss guarding the final will seed is straight up just the head of a penis that will explicitly target on in your party to attack her. It's just really consistent in its theming. I just really enjoy it. It's well designed, the art direction, the story pacing, everything. And then you get to his boss encounter, and he's just this massive homunculus of a creature with this huge long tongue and a goblet of, like,
full of naked volleyball students.
Players. He heals himself by consuming them out of this goblet with this massive fork. Like, it's so disgusting, but also so, like, what an image of this cognitive picture of reality. Like, what is going on in this guy's head, like who he believes he is and what the world is for him, that this is just my food. Like, this is just every day to me.
It's really incredible. I couldn't have imagined a better first impression, not just for this game, but really just first impressions in general. It sets up everything to be so believable, because it's so clear. You know how the sexual perversions are working in his mind and how it holds up. It literally holds up his castle. Some of the pillars are like the high school students bent over with their butts like prominently displayed.
Yeah,
and then the pillar on top of that. So that's like the only part that you really see. It's really insane. And then of course his boss. it's very good.
Yeah,
It's the best one in the game.
Yeah.
For that reason. There's like the gameplay and the traversal. There's one we think is better. But the overall experience.
But because of what
this
Persona
is
is
so
and what
good.
it's trying to deliver, like this just fires on all cylinders for me.
Absolutely.
It's very, very good. I honestly can't get it out of my mind. Wow, it's so good. I really want to. Part of me just wants to play New Game Plus just to do that palace again. Like it's so quality. But again, they handle it really tactfully. Like it is a very realistic depiction of that kind of perversion. Kind of growing out of a belief that you are in control, that you are in charge, that you deserve to be there, right? And starting to manipulate and use that for yourself, right? Because the core, his treasure is that Olympic gold medal, right? Like, I deserve this. Like, I am the best. This is mine because of that. And he is just a scumbag. But I wrote this in my diary, my Persona 5 diary. When he confessed after you steal his treasure, like, I felt like just, it was really honest. Like, because everybody confesses, but his hurt a lot more than others to hear this guy just grovel and, like, hate himself. Like, you know, it's a fiction, but just imagine removing the years and years and years of just one little step more, one little step more, one little step more toward becoming that kind of person. You just rip that foundation out and you collapse back down to being a normal person and looking at what you've done.
Well, you said it earlier.
Physically, wretchedly despising yourself.
Yeah, you said it earlier, and you shared something with me this week that really does help to sum that up. Once you remove the treasure, all of the, like, guilt doesn't exist. It's all like the treasure is a dam for the guilt.
Yeah.
And once you remove it, you are completely consumed by it. And you know, you shared that gif of like the blocks being stacked, and there's that, like, this is the internet.
Yeah.
But there's that one little block in the corner, like some dude in Sweden doing a thankless job. That's the treasure. Once you do that, everything else is guilt. That's the only thing that exists anymore is guilt, and you want to kill yourself.
Yeah, and
and he asks, like, he wants to kill himself, but then realizes, wait, that would provide less guilt to me, so I need to stick around and be punished.
Yeah, like, I've been in a situation, like, in multiple times, like, definitely not to that extreme, but where, like, I do feel that just wretched guilt, like, just all consuming. Like, how am I even a functional human? Like level of hate for yourself. Like, I've been there, like, and so to see that in this context portrayed very accurately is honestly just good writing.
Yeah,
it's so good.
And I really appreciate the the relationship you build with him. Again, the first impression is incredible. All of the with one exception, all of the other targets and the palaces you enter are big criminals. They're larger than life targets, but this is a very intimate target. It's a very prominent figure in your school. Both of the party members you get in the beginning of your game, which become your best friends, they are your best friends and very intimately involved with him. Yep. So you build this very intentional relationship with him, and I mean, not a positive relationship, but the game is building this relationship,
and to see it reflected so beautifully.
It's reflected great, but also the characters have nuanced reactions to it. On, who is a victim of him, is questioning, maybe this was not a good idea. It's really, really great writing, as you said,
and that leads really well into if you're done talking about this,
sure.
Is Madarame's palace, because this is where you introduce Yusuke, who's a student of Madarame, who you find out is he's doing art forgery. He's basically, like, abusing these children in a way that, like, they're prominent young artists, and he will, like, convince them to let him take their art and call it his own, and then when their usefulness is done, toss them out on the street, right? And Yusuke is the last one, and his mom, because of his mom, basically Yusuke's mom was also brought under Madarame's wing, and she painted this absolutely gorgeous painting, but he took it as his, and it was like it's the one he's remembered for now.
Mhm.
It's a pretty twisted little story, and basically like this is well after the dungeon's done, and you develop your relationship with Yusuke. Yusuke is wrestling with these feelings of like knowing that part of Madarame genuinely cared about him. Like, there's just evidence that there is no reason Yusuke should have been kept around that long. Like, there's, like, along with the manipulation and the way he used him, there's also genuine paternal care. And, like, having to reconcile these two totally different things, it's very real.
It's good. And, you mentioned something right now that harkens back to the modularity of this game, not just in the mechanics, but the narrative as well, because everything you just said would have happened, would likely happen sort of right after that, and maybe did for you if you started building that right away. I only started building my relationship with Yusuke in my last like 2 or 3 sessions. So this is all happening at the end of the game, but it has a different weight because you've grown with Yusuke as a character just through the normal story beats. And he's been carrying that the whole time.
Absolutely.
And it's not like a totally self-removed story that it feels separate from everything. It feels like he's carrying that at every point in the story.
That's totally,
and
yeah,
where you plug in the resolution to everyone's story.
It's so natural.
It's so natural. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's really
man.
Good.
That's a good point, man.
It's
I really
I like it a lot.
And what's great is when you finish Madarame's palace, he kind of collapses. He has that realization of his shadow. So his cognitive self starts to realize the guilt and stuff. And the last thing that happens as the party leaves him is he's like, Yusuke, wait. Like he recognizes his paternal care for Yusuke right at the end, as Yusuke's too far gone. It's too late. And it just despite
and
being
you see them grow as characters and show forgiveness for other targets.
Yeah.
So if at
forgiveness
any other
is
point,
a huge theme.
Yeah.
I will
at
never
any other
forgive this
point,
person,
Yusuke would have turned around, but at this point, it's too early in his development for him to know what forgiveness is, or because he's so everything is so black and white for him. And then towards
and he's just now waking up to it.
Yeah, and towards the end of his character arc, a common response is, "Wow, you've grown so much, Yusuke."
Yeah,
and he's just so genuinely, inspired by that response.
Yeah.
He's a great character.
He's really good.
Yeah, we love Yusuke.
Yeah, as we should. He should just be the thumbnail for the video. Just Yusuke looking all.
Well, I mean, we haven't chosen it yet, so maybe I'll do that one.
Do whatever you think looks good. You always do a good job. But yeah, and the palace overall is definitely it's starting to, the palace areas are starting to get a little more interesting. They introduce treasure demons. So, things are just evolving at this point. It's still nothing special yet. There's no big conceit to the palace, really. It's pretty straightforward. It does, though, something that I wish other palaces did more often, where you actually have to leave the palace halfway through to go and interact with the real world to get his cognition to change so that you go back. And what that does is it gives you more time with Madarame, gives you more time in his space, because you're never going to have what you had with Kamoshida again. You just can't, because of the nature of the escalating type of target, right? You're not going to have
not
that
only
again.
that, but the escalating target, but it involves you and 2 other party members in your everyday life.
Absolutely.
It's so intentionally
Unless you bring
an
that
intimate
back
relationship.
in, which would feel shoehorned, I think, if you brought something like that back and
Yeah.
just out of nowhere. So I think that having
You maybe could have done something with Mishima. You've
yeah.
got to go fight Mishima. You decide not to later. But you maybe could have done something like that with
Sure.
your own party member.
that's fair.
Oh, you do with Futaba.
Yeah, that's fair.
But you're not intimate with Futaba yet.
Yeah, and for me, like, I think that well, they could have done it. This is totally valid too. Like, you don't have to replicate Kamoshida. It's what they do is great, and so being able to step out of the dungeon halfway through to manipulate their cognition in some way gives you that in, and that only ever happens one other time, and the other time it happens is pretty
lame.
Yeah, pretty meh. So
which one is that? I forget.
It's Sainijima.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's I don't know. For me, I think I would like to see them do that more, because especially with the next guy, Kanashiro is my least favorite of all of them.
By far.
By a huge margin. He has a cool little ending sequence where the puzzle is you kind of have to turn this tumblers on this it's basically a massive lock, but it's the walls blocking you off, and you have to find codes and turn these tumblers to get it to move. But no, I mean, it's if the whole dungeon was that, I would probably liked it better, right? But he is the least interesting. He is straight up just a mobster.
He is, and upon reflection,
he has a great voice actor
right now.
His voice actor is really good.
I'd have to listen to him.
Like
again.
he doesn't get anything special to work with, but he's got the smuggest, like, just it's almost infantile smugness. Like, it is a really good performance.
Yeah, I don't remember it well enough, but upon reflection, he's not the important part.
Correct.
It's the Phantom Thieves shift for why they are Phantom Thieves.
Yes.
Is the important part. So it makes sense that he's not like some world-shaking, be it your like everyday world or the country at large. Sure. He's not some world-shaking opponent, but he's like a mindset shifting enemy for them.
But this is where you introduce Makoto to the party, and Makoto is my everything. She is so fantastic. I love Makoto.
I will not disagree. I only have her confidant at level 4. Which is a pure shame. No, it's really the worst thing in the world. Let's talk about confidants for a minute and who we decided to bone.
Oh, Makoto. Like, after a little bit of time with Makoto, after she became part of the party, so much of her is my wife is in her, so it's kind of pretty natural.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like it's perfect. 1 year older than me, super like book smart and intelligent. Sometimes doesn't really like get that I'm telling a joke all the time or flirting with her all the time. Like, it just a lot of those little things lined up for me. But she's also just so genuine, and she's willing to acknowledge her weaknesses, but also like willing to take risks and steps that like nobody else in the party does. She's just really, and like her idea of a rebel coming out, especially from like, I hated the valedictorians at school. I hated the people that were just like, the classic class president type of people. So to see this one become a screw class president kind of person, it satisfied everything for me. I'm like, this chick is awesome. And like, it's classic. Her idea of a rebel just looks like a biker. Like, that's
it's literally a biker. Her persona is Shiva from Final Fantasy 13.
Her ultimate persona is straight up just a Autobot version of the bike. It's amazing.
I'll check out all of their ultimate personas. I think the only one I'm gonna get, the only two I guess, are Yusuke.
Yusuke's
and
looks
Futaba.
awesome. It's not as cool as his base, just because nothing's that cool. But it's the second coolest of all the personas. It's really awesome.
I'd like to know what Futaba's is, if it changes at all.
Stupid.
Is it?
Look, it's just an orb.
Oh. Her initial one is an interesting take. The Necronomicon, but it's a spaceship. It's like a hard drive of knowledge that is a spaceship.
Yeah.
That's pretty bizarre.
I agree. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's an interesting
also
take.
Though, kind of like, going back to Kanashiro, the whole design of his bank is very generic. Like, the layout, the colors, it's just pretty bland. And
his colors are bland. I don't think the layout is so much.
His boss fight too is really lame.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a giant piggy bank, and then
it's
like
literally a piggy bank that is giant.
It's very, I don't know what it's definitely the weakest in the whole, like by a margin, thankfully, the weakest. But yeah, that leads into the next one, which I think is incredible from an emotional standpoint, the second best, which is Futaba's palace. Because Futaba asks, like, this is where I started to really relate to the conceit of the game, was Futaba's asking the Phantom Thieves to steal her heart, right? I recognize in myself my shortcomings, the things that I physically am unable to even get over. Like, how am I still struggling with this same thing that I've been struggling with my whole damn life? Can someone please just take it away from me? Right? That desperate longing. And to see Futaba like go through that arc, just to ask someone to steal her heart, it hit a little too close to home for me.
So good, man.
It really
I
did.
love Futaba so much.
She's an incredible character.
Yeah, she is not someone I decided to romance.
I felt
I
bad.
don't love her in that way.
Yeah, I felt too much of the familial bond with her.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad the devs left it in where you could romance her, but I was reading someone like mentioned in passing, and he's like, listen, I'm a 45-year-old gamer. That had something to do with it, but also like I felt like because of the situation that I'm leading her back into society, I'm like fostering her because she's very antisocial. Like she has trouble being around people.
Yes.
And so you're kind of like helping her reintegrate. And like it just kind of feels like you're taking advantage of her a little bit.
Absolutely.
And the game tries to make it not feel that way. They do. I watched the whole Futaba romance because I was curious. They do a good job. Like the dialogue options, like they really try to make it seem like you're not taking advantage of her. But it doesn't help it for me. I still kind of feel that way. And she is just the perfect little sister. She's amazing.
Yeah, and none of my sisters are this way, but I've worked with, and I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it before. Correct. No, I've worked with kids before, middle-aged kids, early high school, or just about to go into high school. I say middle-aged, I meant middle school.
Middle-aged kids.
Yeah.
Like my dad.
Yeah.
He's the definition of a middle-aged child.
Yes. I've worked with them a lot. Summer camps, like things at church. I've done it quite often. And I also like just click with that age group for some reason. So I've seen many people just like her. And seen them, usually not me, oftentimes someone else, but sometimes me, do that exact same thing. Have that sort of arc where you find someone that pulls you sort of like into society. Someone did that for me, and my sister as well. Alyssa. Alyssa did that for my sister, and so I know that person. And that was like a pretty intimate relationship for me. I use intimate, by the way, not... it should be obvious just by our conversation so far. I use intimate in like simply to mean nearness, close. Yeah. A very special nearness. That's it. If I want to bone someone, I'm going to tell you. Okay?
Yeah. Which, by the way, who do you want to bone?
Many people. But I am a monogamous man. I decided to hook up with Takemi. She is your very sexy doctor that gives you drugs under the table for
like half price.
Yeah, well, she gives you drugs, and then she gives you other drugs at half price for allowing her to do tests on you.
Her little guinea pig.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're my guinea pig. Yeah, you're just my little guinea pig. My little guinea pig.
Yeah, it's
and then at like 8 or 9, like level 8 or 9, whenever you decide to like actually start dating her, she like catches herself about to start sexting. And she's like, oh wait, I'm done, I'm going to bed. She's like, this is a fucking 16-year-old. Excuse my language. Which is the age of consent in Japan. An area of debate if you'd like it, but the age of consent in Japan. Anyhow, still an odd thing for an adult to do. And she's like totally taken aback by herself, and she's like, I'm leaving.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
But she's just too sexy.
Correct.
And then because it was so funny to me, Kawakami or Kamakawi, whatever.
No,
the
now
teacher.
you confused me, but yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's Kawakami, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. The teacher. So this is actually one of my favorite arcs in the game. Futaba is up there, and her dad, your caretaker, Sojiro.
Sojiro is the true
which we'll
waifu.
talk about. We will
My goodness.
the true waifu. Husbando is the term.
Yeah, sorry.
There's a term for that.
Sure, but like, as you can only romance the women.
Yes.
But no, he is not only the greatest human in the whole game, he's also the best wingman. Like, he's got your
He's
back.
so good. I love him.
I really love Sojiro.
You know, we've.
He's a really complex character too.
He is.
He's really layered. Like, that's a well-written character.
Absolutely. But she is one of my favorites. She's up there with those others, and she's your teacher, and you and some buddies of yours are like, hey, look, I found this flyer for a maid service. You want to like get a hotel room and like call the maid service and watch her clean it?
Yeah.
And so you do. You get a hotel room. You're all giggling. You call the maid service. You're just gonna watch her in a sexy outfit dust the cabinets of this hotel.
Very
Whatever.
16-year-old thing to do.
But they all book it.
This is the best day of my life.
They all book it, and because they're too embarrassed before she gets there, and you've got your back turned. You're embarrassed, but you get caught. She walks in the door before you escape, and there's like a shroud on her face. You don't know this is your teacher at the time. And the two of you are talking, and it finally clicks, and you turn around and you're like, oh my god, this is my teacher right now. Her breasts are hanging out. I can see the bottom of her booty. What's happening? This is too hot for me. And it was too hot for me. Okay. So I went for Kawakami. And then her character arc really changed my mind. She's a very good character. She's a teacher, doesn't get paid much, and she was teaching at another school, and may have caused a student, or she had a very close relationship with a student who ended up committing suicide, and riddled with guilt, and also like sort of being oppressed by the student's parents. She pays them a lot of money to basically as like a I'm sorry, here's money. And she's riddled with guilt. She can't escape this sort of cycle she's in. And so this is what she does. She's a prostitute on the side. And, you know, she needs the money, so she's going to take your money. But you can have her do various things, as I mentioned before, you know, make coffee for you, which is a consumable item in combat. Do other things, your
she
laundry.
Refuses to sleep with you.
Correct.
But she will take your money if you just ask her to clean or make coffee or something.
And so you start to unravel this story with her, and she's so shocked that you are viewing her as a human. It's not just that, like, you know, you're helping her out. Oh, thank you for helping me. Most people don't help me. If you become genuinely interested in her story, she almost can't process it. And finally you she's like so like riddled with guilt and exhausted by all the work she's doing. She does finally collapse, and you encourage her, like, you should take vitamins, you should treat yourself better, you should eat better, you know, maybe just take the weekend off, which she can't do. You're trying to encourage her to just treat herself better. She finally collapses. You visit her in the hospital, but so do this kid's parents, demanding money. Don't care if you're in the hospital. You help her out with this stuff. You can hook up with her later.
Yes.
I did not, as a monogamous man, I decided to only hang out with Takemi, who is the sexy doctor. She was my second choice until I realized what just a lovely person she was. Wasn't trying to take advantage here. It's a really great character arc. And also doing your laundry gives you an extra time slot. So there's that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful lecture. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That was thanks for this TED Talk. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Bonin teachers.
The next
Okay, enough
dungeon
of that.
is
Sorry.
Okumura, who I would argue is probably the second weakest. It's definitely far and above Kanashiro's still. But really, so Okumura is the father of the final party member, which is Haru, or who is Haru. And I actually think she has a great arc, but she's introduced so late, a lot of people won't find it.
Yeah, she's introduced late, and her the things you get from her
Yeah, they're not quite as beneficial, at least at
her
that stage
skills.
of the game.
yeah, they're useless, really, it seems. I don't know
except for
exactly what everything
the
does.
general party, skills.
She like makes vegetables that you can give to somebody else to do something else. I don't care.
Yeah, it's I didn't really boost her very much, but I am aware that her arc
didn't even
gets
get her to level
really
1.
interesting because Okumura. Actually, this is the best part of Okumura's dungeon is a mysterious figure shows up and kills his shadow, which means that he has a mental shutdown. So the Phantom Thieves for a while think they messed it up, and so Haru for a while thinks she's responsible for her dad's death. He dies in the hospital. It's
Now, let's take a moment to talk about Okumura. I think it isn't. We've talked about everybody else. It is important to talk about Okumura. He's basically the Jeff Bezos in this story. He's one of the wealthiest men in the country, if not the wealthiest man in the country. He runs an
Big Bang Burger
empire. Now, fast food here, but a huge empire. And he's expanding. He's about to get into politics. Things are really taking off. He's taking in a bunch of other industries. It's Jeff Bezos, and this is his daughter. And she understands that her father is super corrupt and, treats his... I don't think this is as weak as you give it credit, or as weak as you think, because the visual design in here, I love.
Oh, I agree.
Maybe mechanically it's weak.
No. I just mean I would put it as my second
thematically-
least favorite personally.
Well, the other ones are so strong. So
Yeah.
sure. Thematically, it's a
not
very
even
strong
close
dungeon.
to Kanashiro's.
Kanashiro's just bottom of the pile.
Yeah.
It's not good. But all of the employees are basically think something as disposable as like a portal turret. They're just little robots that break down. Their lunch break, which you can manipulate to solve puzzles, is about 10 seconds. They get a 10-second lunch break. They have to go right back to work. If they step out of line, they are disposed of. If they start to break down because they're not oiled well enough, they are disposed of. If they express any sort of interest in, moving around or advancing, they are disposed of. It's a really great visual design and sort of like I don't know what you would call a visual allegory. That's kind of how I see it. Of the sort of problems people have with huge, like really big industry today. Sure. And so this is his daughter, who is the empress to an empire. And she suddenly has to run this business herself or make huge choices. And I really am genuinely interested in the character, but I'm so late in the game because she is presented on the surface as sort of like a typical anime China doll. But she's like a strong, independent woman. She gets that the people that are coming to her in this time of need are trying to get in with the business, so maybe she can alleviate some of the responsibility so these people can rise up. They don't care about her. She understands a bit of the business because just like through osmosis, and she's a strong person, and she gets it all, and I like that. I like that this kid can recognize all of those things in herself and in her world immediately. She's very worldly, and she's a good character. But at this point in the game, I was so invested in the characters and their mechanics.
Yeah,
I couldn't be bothered to further that relationship.
which is fair. I get it. That I feel like that's just gonna be the syndrome of any late edition in a Persona game. Is like anyone who's near the end is gonna get that, unfortunately. But I don't know. I think that overall, though, so we've talked so far about our negative takes on the game. This represents for me the biggest blemish. Just a nasty giant zit
yeah.
on this otherwise perfect game, just right in the center of Haru's giant forehead. Just and that's the boss fight in the Royal Edition of For Okumura. Throughout the rest of the game, you're given incredible leniency to adapt on the fly using the personas that you have to just make combat work. Okuma requires a very specific set of personas with very specific damaging types of moves. Any sort of like experimentation you've been doing up to that point, if it's not exactly in line, will be tossed out the window. You have to kill 4 enemies. It starts off very weak and progressively gets stronger. In the same turn, if any of them get a turn and one of them is dead, they will flee.
Turn. They get 1 turn.
Well, they will flee.
So on the second turn, they flee.
So they will flee if any of their compatriots are dead, and it's miserable.
It's terrible.
And Okuma will cast defense up on one of them, so you're not even doing even damage to all of them. And if you do not have exactly the weakness set for the 2 highest sets, you are not going to progress. Period. It's not going to happen. Which is so dumb.
You could be that guy on Twitch that recently reached level 99 in Kamoshida's palace.
That's a thing you can do with your time.
Don't.
Have a life. I actually congratulate you. You are an incredible man.
Nope.
With incredible patience.
I won't agree.
I respect you. Like, no sarcasm. I have deep respect for you. But I can't be like you.
No, I can't.
But yeah, it's just a really frustrating boss fight. There's countless articles about how to cheese him online because people are just frustrated with it. It's not well designed. It's a good core idea, trying to, progressively, rise up and kill them all at the same time, take advantage of their weaknesses. But there's just a little bit too much health, and it's for where you're at. So I had to straight up go back and grind up a persona to get the move I needed just so I could go back and beat him. Like, it was just frustrating. I hadn't had to do that yet in the game, and it obviously wasn't the intention. So I would say that's my biggest gripe with the game, is that boss fight. That's a huge blemish for me.
It's really dumb. Sorry, I swallowed that incorrectly. Which, if you do not drink whiskey or bourbon or scotch, that can happen.
Yeah.
You got to swallow it
perfectly. So that's.
I agree. Cool. Yeah, I had to up the difficulty. Manipulate the what each difficulty does.
Yeah.
And then start using the items we talked about that have the elemental differences. And even then, it was pretty difficult because the things that are increased, which are like critical hit chances and damage, I think, just a standard increase to damage and crit for everybody, you and the enemies. HP is the same, and like SP cost is the same. It's just damage and I think crit chances for everybody. So if I got hit with a weakness, I was done for. So it was now then a race against the clock, which it was already a literal race against the clock.
Yeah, you have a set
There's a timer
limit.
And everything's going to blow up.
Yeah, it's really stupid. I didn't like it. But the next dungeon, in my opinion, has the best gameplay design, game design overall. I think the level design here is fantastic. In that Sainijima's Casino, there are not only at a couple sections multiple paths you can take. You can progress down different areas at different times, kind of have that player decision there. But there are immediate goals that are pushing you toward a larger goal, and those immediate goals all look pretty different. And so you get to satisfy that immediate goal, which then lets you progress toward the larger goal. For example, Basically, they have a chip system. It's a casino, so you have to gamble, but you have to cheat the system because they're cheating you. You have to gamble to try to get to a certain number of chips. So the first two things you have to do is you cheated a dice game and you cheated a slot machine by messing with the computers. Then you go up a level, and there's a maze that you have to go through, like a dark maze with enemies in it. And on the other side, there's a like one-on-one arena fight where you just have to send Joker in to do like just interesting little challenges that line up well with the theming of the casino. You have to run down the back halls a lot of the time, and be like find the staff back there and stuff. It's well designed. It's thematically consistent, and it's just the variety presented to the player is at the peak for the whole game. It'll never hit that way again.
I think there's one thing that could have maybe been better broadcast to the player or just presented differently, and that is, I think it's the fourth area that you do, and that is the slot machine area.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the second. It's either the second or fourth, but this maze, it is a pretty big twisting maze, not like the darkness where literally you don't know where you're going, but the environment is just twisting and tucking into itself, and it is a good design there, but you're hunting for 3 or 4 colored monitors that are mounted on the wall, and there are colors everywhere. Some of those colors blend pretty well, of the monitors that you're hunting for blend pretty well into the environment that they're placed in. So a blue wall with a slightly greener tinted monitor, which is the green monitor you're looking for, and then there are other blue monitors which are a slightly less green tint. Maybe I'm just seeing it incorrectly.
And they're not highlighted in your thief
They're not
sense
highlighted
either.
at all. I spent so much time searching.
I spent longer
for
than
those
I should
things.
have.
So that's the only time I got frustrated. And there's not a save point in that area, where there's a save point in every other area.
You have to go back out and
so
save.
that was a little frustrating, but overall the design there is pretty solid. I think they at least just should have highlighted it in your thief sense. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all you need. If you're not going to put a brighter color, that would have done well. Like maybe like a like a bronze bezel on the monitor.
Yeah.
Whatever. They blended in too well. I'm happy you also experienced that and it wasn't just me. Otherwise, super strong.
Yeah, and her boss fight's really interesting because like she kind of, her final form, for lack of a better term, is not what you expect at all. It's this like rusty, spiky, gangly, like I don't know, just mech almost.
Yeah, imagine like if an angel from Neon Genesis, an Ava, did not have pristine metal, because it is this like tall, lanky humanoid figure with a weird face, but there's a bunch of metal, rusty, just decrepit metal, and weird machine parts that are put all over her that do different things.
And honestly, she's so in control the whole time, and you're just watching her unravel a little bit more as you progress toward her closer and closer. And plaster on the wall are just like, winner take all, and like just this very like aggressive, only the strong survive kind of sense. And so to see her unravel into finally this just misshapen, bizarre, just jagged creature.
It's great.
Yeah, it's not what you expect, but it fits so
well. Not just so you've got to talk about the characters well for why that fits so well. We talked about Kamoshida. We'll talk about the final boss. What's his name?
Or
Shido.
The final dungeon.
The final dungeon with Shido. And this is also just like a play on the character. This is a woman that is career first. She's put it before her family, the chance for kids, or a husband. She's put everything behind her with her career first. That is the only thing that matters in her life. With her sister, who is Makoto, coming a pretty distant second. But there's so much bureaucracy in Japan that has kept her from succeeding in her job, and she's so desperate now. She has this chance for a promotion, a very significant promotion, and you start to, like, as you fight this decrepit machine, you start to knock off pieces of bureaucracy, basically ancient decrepit bureaucracy that doesn't make sense as you reveal the character again. It's great. I think it's a really good design.
It's fantastic. It really is. They hit it out of the park again,
and they will do so once more.
Yeah,
with that final boss.
Yeah. So the boss of the
not the final boss.
Palace.
Yeah.
So the boss of the final palace. So you go up against a politician who is about to become prime minister, like guaranteed will become prime minister, and he is the guy behind. Throughout Japan, there have been a bunch of mental shutdowns, people going psychotic, and it's because this guy's been manipulating Goro Kechi, your rival, to go and perform these shutdowns on any of his enemies, anyone. And basically, he was weaseled his way to the top by using the metaverse, which he became aware of because of Futaba's mom a long time ago now. So he's at the top. He's about to become prime minister, and he has zero care about anybody except himself. And his palace is like it is so distorted that his palace encompasses all of Japan. Like, it is all of Japan, and he is on a ship cruising over the sunken cities of Japan. It's super evocative, very well presented, and it's got a long build up too. It really earned it. The dungeon itself is great. It's definitely not as strong as the stronger ones, but it's very good. But he, in particular, he's just kind of this force throughout the whole game that you feel, and when you finally face him, again, it's this like totally in control, going into just manic desperation again that they do really well, because he's riding this mass.
Oh my god, dude, this is one of my favorite things.
Yeah, he is on this like little seat, and he's got this almost like Witch King meets Darth Vader outfit. It's very bizarre little outfit, very colorful.
But he's riding atop a golden lion, and this lion, I think it's called like the beast of like common labor or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up.
Sure, look it up, please do. But it is made of the people he has stepped on. Golden, so it's a golden idol in the shape of a lion, made of people. And literally every aspect of this lion, every detail is made of a full body that has been, like, the model of a body has been...
The beast of human sacrifice.
It's incredible. And then the wings of human sacrifice, and then the tomb of human sacrifice. So you fight him in a few different... this is a long fight. 6 forms.
Yeah, I think so.
So you get those 3 that I just mentioned with the beast, and then him in his armor, him when he breaks out of his armor, and then him when it's just you and Joker.
Yeah,
very long fight.
Yeah,
I was so like it was the 5th stage it was the only one that was difficult. Honestly, the fight is fine. It was the 5th stage where I was like, oh my god, dude, if I bite the dust here, I'm going to break your TV with my controller.
Please don't.
But then the last fight was like, what is this joke right now? He's doing 60 damage to me.
Yeah.
Anyhow, every aspect of this lion, its nose, its eyes, its mane, every ripple in its muscles is literally a full body that's been contorted. The model of it's been contorted and shoved into this shape of a lion, and his throne, also made of bodies, which has some steps, also made of bodies that he climbs up to.
It's really good design.
It's bizarre. It's incredible. And I spent probably the better part of 10 minutes just staring at it, turning it around, looking at everything. Its face is incredible. It's the so like its nose is the butt and legs of a woman that like curl up into like the legs curl up into its upper lips, and as the nose comes into its snout, that's like two men like reaching and grabbing the legs as they fold up, and it's incredible.
Yeah, it's really
Check
good.
it out online. The Beast of Human Sacrifice is amazing.
Yeah, it's really good stuff.
Yeah.
I really liked that whole encounter. They did a really good job presenting it. And despite him being pretty distant from the party, you don't have a lot of emotional investment in him or what's going on. It's very much like a national, problem, like something that's supposed to be national urgency in stopping him. His moment of realization was well done too, where he with that sense of regret, it didn't feel cheap, that slower, oh my god, how did I get here kind of moment. It was really well done.
I'd have to go back and watch it.
It was very short. He just has this little moment where he's he's waking up, but also waking up to his guilt, and it's very slow, and his confession is not this "I'm so sorry." It's very much like a "thank you for electing me, I appreciate your votes, but there's something I have to tell you," and it's this somber little moment. It's really well done. I mean, it matches his character well, I think. I like.
And what happens after? So I'm just after this. Just a couple days. I've gone back to school now. So during this time, between these two dungeons, you've been out of school. People thought you committed suicide. And do people still say that? You died to suicide is the phrase now?
I don't know.
Maybe some people commit suicide, but some people succumb to suicide.
Sure.
I think is how we see it now.
It's
anyway,
a better term.
Anyhow, people think that you have committed suicide and you're out of school, and so I've just finished my finals. I come back to school 3 days before finals, and that's where I've stopped. But I'm not going to trigger the same ending, which you've already told me about, because I have triggered the extra content for Royale, which is an entire another semester, which is smaller. I say entire. It's smaller than the other semesters, but it is another dungeon, or another palace rather, another character. I think the new character that triggers that does come back. I'm not sure. We'll see. I'd like him to come back. I did grow to like him quite a bit. But
he's a goober.
From here on, it's just you.
Yeah. So I don't want to talk about the ending too much, honestly. The final boss is a blast. He's very fun. I didn't struggle with him. I had some just really OP personas, but he was really interesting design. I liked the overall premise, all that stuff. I don't want to go too much into it. We're definitely not a story analysis kind of podcast anyway, but there is something that stood out to me. And at the end of the game, Morgana has realized that who's been with you this whole time, she wasn't sure if she was human or not, realizes that he was created to. You want to say she because Morgana, but he was created.
The name is a female name.
Yeah, so he was created to guide you in your rebellion against this god figure. You basically end up fighting. Humanity has given up its free will because it's easier to live just in slavery to the collective unconscious. And this collective unconscious has manifested itself as the Holy Grail that grants the wish of lack of free will, basically. And this manifested into a godlike being who has been manipulating you this whole time, has been actually trying to get you to wake humanity up, to rehabilitate you so humanity can be rehabilitated, but you failed. Humanity doesn't want to be rehabilitated. So he decides that he was just going to, fine, I'm just going to be God. And so he merges Mementos with reality. It's this crazy moment, all the bones and spines in Mementos are just over the buildings.
That's pretty awesome.
It's super sick. It's awesome. And so he, you have this moment where you fight him. Humanity finally comes to realize that they don't want this, and they start to wake up because of the Phantom Thieves, and that's what gives you the strength to beat him. Classic Japanime stuff, as Nick would say. It's good though. It really hits home. I was actually kind of really emotional, despite how cheesy it kind of is at the end. I was getting emotional just because of how long you've spent with these characters and stuff. But at the end, something interesting happens. So because you defeat this god, which was the treasure of mementos, the entire cognitive world disappears. There's no more cognitive world. You can't use your personas anymore. Like, all that has gone because you have stolen the treasure that was
from the cognitive world itself.
From the cognitive world itself. And Morgana tells you this doesn't mean you stop making a difference. Like, everything you've done in the cognitive world, it was only possible because of what you had been doing in the real world. Like, the two worlds are one already. Like, even though they were separate and we interact with them separately, they're one, which just re-hammers home that fascination with the everyday I was talking about earlier.
This story has fallen apart. Why is Morgana still talking?
What do you mean?
If the cognitive world
it's
is
fading away.
gone?
It's like fading away, and she's like, oh, and she's like floating up in the. He's floating up in the sky.
Oh, is he really like disappearing?
Yeah, he's like in the process of disappearing.
Oh, okay.
And
I think he just meant like as your cat while you guys. Are
No. He's like telling you this, and like he's like sparkling and fading away.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, it kind of gives you this little speech about like how, and it's kind of like, almost to the player, like, just because this doesn't exist doesn't mean you can do, something cheesy like that. But it's not just out of nowhere. Like, the whole game has been re-emphasizing the importance of laundry and spending time with your friends and texting, and all of that comes full circle in that little moment there. And that was just a really special moment for me, like, to see them wrap that up so neatly with something that I had identified so early on, right? So that's kind of what I would take away from the ending. Otherwise, it's a fun ending. You fight a bunch of like archangels on the way up to fight the final boss, and they all get progressively a little bit harder. It's just good. It's a really good little ending segment there. Really, high octane, very very JRPG ending, over the top.
I wonder what they're gonna, if they don't. So you've done some reading, and they don't present that ending if you unlock the additional content.
No, I think you fight that boss and stuff, but I think there's more. I don't know. Anyone quote me. I have no idea.
I wonder if they just like put the other semester before that.
I don't know.
It seems like that would make more sense.
I really don't know,
because it seems like a pretty definitive ending. But yeah, I guess I'll see. I'm gonna play it. I mean, I'm gonna play it as soon as we're done here. I'll play it for maybe an hour or two, but I will play it between games. What else do you have to say?
No, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah. So that was all you. I've not finished it yet. But that is Persona 5.
I'm so glad we had the time to play it.
Any other characters?
Just Sojiro. I love Sojiro. Gosh,
I love Sojiro and Futaba. I'm so glad I met Futaba. I genuinely love that. Ooh, excuse me. Genuinely love that character and her interactions. Her just the character that plays off of Sojiro. So Sojiro owns the cafe that you sleep in the attic of. He's your caretaker in the game. You've been sent away from your home for committing a crime, falsely being accused of a crime. With Sojiro, he's a very hardened individual. He's been through a lot. He is he's a man's man,
but he genuinely cares too. You can see it,
but not yet.
No,
or
but
rather,
even
he doesn't allow himself to.
Yeah,
yet.
exactly. Like,
and
that kindness is
out.
there, and he's he's trying really hard to go like, well, you're a criminal. Like, just don't do anything stupid. Like,
don't think I won't kick you out.
Yeah, exactly.
He says that a lot in the beginning. Just because you're staying here and you're going to school doesn't mean I won't kick you out. He's a bit of an asshole in the beginning. But
you can even tell then he's like really trying to be,
Yeah. He thinks like that's what you need. You need a firm man in your life.
Yeah.
Like that's what he
But
genuinely
he,
thinks
like,
you need.
to say those things, he's not weak. He's not, like, trying to figure out how to deal with this kid. He's just, like, he's been burned so many times, and he's just, like, not letting himself. But he still genuinely cares. Like, he opened his home to you. Like, well, not his home, but his cafe, right? Like, obviously this guy's a good person, but he's trying really hard not to get too invested in you because you're a delinquent.
Yeah. So Futaba, the party member you get later on in the game, the second to last party member you get, she is sort of his daughter, not quite adopted daughter. He was very intimately involved with her mom. They weren't really official yet. They would probably have gotten married should she not have been murdered. But he really took to Futaba early on in their relationship. Her dad's sort of out of the picture. Her uncle, which is the next in line to sort of be her caretaker. Which, an aside, it seems like they have a very different... The culture in Japan, if this is indicative of that, has a very different relationship with, like, parents and kids than maybe we do here. Because very seldomly do they actually refer to their parents. Like, even Ryuji, I think, refers to, like, his caretakers or something like that. It's quite odd, but he has taken Futaba in after her mother passed, and she saw her mother commit suicide, jump in front of a car right in front of her, and she lied to herself. It's my fault. My mom hated me. And that's sort of the distortion that she's built.
Well, she was told that lie first.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yes, she was told that lie. She didn't say it herself, so she began to believe it. And it turns out much later on, you find out that her mom was her cognitive self was killed. All the mental shutdowns that are happening. That's what happened with her, and she fell in front of a car. But Futaba's been wrestling with that guilt, thinking that she caused her mother, she drove her mother to suicide. And that was not the case. And she's a gamer girl. She is a hacker. She spends all of her time in her room eating cup of noodles and nothing else. And is a total outcast. That's why she's the hermit confidant. Because she's a hermit. And you start to, as Zach mentioned earlier, sort of reintegrate her into society. And one of my favorite scenes, which is nothing like particularly emotional, but when she goes to the school, like whenever you meet Akechi during that little festival, she's going to school. You're showing her around school. She's of high school age, but she doesn't go to school. And she's trying to, like, learn what high school is like. What do kids my age do? And you and Makoto being a pretty maternal character.
Oh, for sure.
You and Makoto sort of walk her through the school, and as she's like running around saying things about this and that.
Just kidding.
You're both just like, oh, what's happening? But it's a really soft moment for Makoto and Futaba as well. And Futaba tends to, like, pull characters into her. They're all sort of around her orbit, or orbiting around her, with the exception of maybe Ryuji. Everyone else is involved with her, including Yusuke. There's that sort of
hostile
that, like, hostile sibling, even in their text messages, like later
call
on
each other out consistently.
Yeah, like later on, you guys are texting and she comes into the text message a little late and she's like, oh, just in case you guys were wondering, and he's like, we most certainly were not.
Yeah, he's like very, and the best part is she's totally poking fun at him and he's like very serious about it.
I love them so much.
Yeah, they have a great little relationship.
Yeah, but
she calls him Inari.
Yeah,
is the fox legend. Nobody else does. It's just her. Come on, Inari.
Stupid Inari. Useless Inari.
Yeah. And, like, if he does good in combat, that was pretty good, Inari. Like, it's just great.
Yeah, everyone is just like, wow, pretty cool, Joker. Oh, that was pretty good.
Yeah, it's so
There's
quality.
so much character in this game.
Yeah.
And everyone, we did not mention this. Everyone's so believable.
Yes,
These
very.
are the most believable high school kids I have ever seen in a game. In
without being
most
insufferable.
media. Correct. In most media, like these are honest, believable high school
Well,
kids.
I made a note in the diary I was keeping of I wrote off high school anime as a genre. Like,
Oh, so did I.
I
Until you
watched-
introduced me to Toradora.
yeah, until Toradora, that's what like kind of did it for me, and I was like, oh, this is really good.
Yeah.
And then this, only solidifies that these guys are
Most
written so
definitely.
well, because people tend to forget that high schoolers are adults essentially.
Yes.
Yeah, like they are like
They have cars, they have jobs. Depending on your parents, you have a pretty significant amount of
like
freedom.
sure you're in a lot more volatile, a lot more hormones happening, but like you are an adult and like they think like adults. Like if you write them off as a kid, that hurts even a middle schooler. It will crush them.
Yeah.
It will like I remember feeling
Oh, dude,
crushed.
and I've mentioned. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
as a 26-year-old, I've had men write me off as just a kid. And I look at it, I'm like, hey, screw you. I'm an adult. I know more than you in like 10,000 different areas. You need to shut up and listen to what I have to say. Which I never did that as a high schooler. I'm like, you're probably right. Like, I don't know anything. Like, shut up. I'm an adult. Like, sure, I'm still learning, but like, these
I don't
people-
have the experiences, but I have knowledge of things.
Yeah, and like, I'm at the mental capacity of an adult, basically. Like,
Yeah.
I am.
So I've long
Sorry,
held this
very
belief.
passionate about this.
Yeah, as am I. I've long held this belief because of my background in working with kids pretty often. I think middle schoolers are so often written off. Any
Yes.
teacher I talk to, they don't want to teach middle school. High school, elementary, that's fine. Typically, middle
That's
school
funny.
is out of the question.
That's the only one I enjoyed teaching during my student teaching days.
right. And so I
High
mean, I'm not-
schoolers are like they're too grown up, so they can just like be lazy and write you off.
Yeah.
And elementary schools are they're just too dumb.
Middle schoolers not only have the capacity, but still currently have the willingness to genuinely know everything there
yes,
is.
absolutely.
And we write them off so easily at such a vital time in their life.
it's a shame.
It's a complete shame.
yeah.
I too am passionate about
Yeah.
that subject.
Yeah, it hits pretty close to home for me.
Yeah.
man.
But Futaba has a bunch of characters in her orbit. Sojiro being the greatest of which.
Chief among them.
Correct. Chief among them. So their confidant systems are pretty linked. You've got to eventually they both get gated off by you going to do something, and then they can both continue from there. And then Sojiro's ends with Futaba being at a certain place. You all go to her mother's grave site, and you have a bit of a moment. Just before that, she finally calls him dad and tells her uncle, like, this is where I want to be. You are not my family. This is my dad. And he's so taken aback by that. And you and I have talked about this personally a lot, but Sojiro wants to so badly. You can see it. You can always see it.
Oh, absolutely.
Wants to say I love you.
Yeah.
But media just won't allow it. Two men cannot say I love you to each other. And like Frodo Baggins and Samwise Gamgee.
Oof.
A perfect example. I just watched those 2 weeks ago. And what I took from it in this viewing is I've never seen male intimacy displayed better than in Lord of the Rings. Between all four hobbits. The two groups of hobbits, the two pairs of hobbits, and then their sort of intermingling.
Yeah, platonic male intimacy.
yeah.
Like, as this, like, it's pretty much, like, I know in Western culture, at least, because that's, where I live, there's this, you're either straight and you just kind of, like, go, hey, man, what's up, good bro, maybe a quick hug, slap on the ass, and that's it. Or you're gay. Like, for some reason, like, that's
Yeah, it's black and white, period.
Yeah, there's no intimacy, like genuine closeness, vulnerability. Like, it's so essential for a true, honest friendship too. Is that vulnerability?
Yeah.
That's we were both passionate about that too.
Yeah.
Just very much.
And he wants to say it.
You can see it in his face.
You can see it.
And the best thing about Sojiro, the complexity of his character comes from the fact that he is this very extremely kind person. He, like, at his core, in fact, hanging out with him gives you kindness.
Yeah.
Like, he is a genuine, selfless, kind person who has been screwed over by the system and by other people over and over and over again. He has been dealt the hand of Futaba, who he loves more than anything, and cannot fix her. He cannot figure out. He has tried
to the point where he's like, I'm not the right person for her. I think I should put her in the system.
Yeah, like, and he even blames himself, like, later, going, you guys fixed her so easily. Like, did I really not try? Did I tell myself I tried just to feel better about myself?
He's so
like,
good, man.
He's a really
and those two
complex
characters together, I love them so much.
Yeah, they are definitely, in terms of the writing, the highlight of the game.
Yeah.
Like, they are really the best written characters in the game. It's genuinely incredible. I need to play this game again.
Let's wrap it up. I'm not so sure the camera's gonna last any longer. Great game. Definitely
Amazing
go play
game.
it. Unless
One of
you
my
don't
new
like long
favorites.
menus, stay away from it.
Yes!
I'm just kidding. We're happy to be back finally in the new place.
Whoop, whoop. We're covering Creature in the Well next time.
Yes.
And
Yoko's Island Express. So the very intentional pair here. These are taking two classic arcade mechanics and making totally new games, like an action RPG and a Metroidvania. A Metroidvania that you traverse with pinball. Really interesting stuff, but also short games. I'm currently moving. Can't handle.
Yeah, we were gonna do
Can't
Resident
handle one of
Evil,
these.
but
That'll be
putting
the
that off.
next episode.
Yeah.
So
Which
really
he hasn't
short
played
games.
7. He hasn't played 7.
No, we'll be
very
playing
excited
7
for him.
and 8 next episode.
I'm gonna make a bet right now. I think you'll like 7 more.
How far are you in 8?
About 4 hours.
4 hours. Okay. Maybe. I
just started it
excited
early
for
because
7.
my wife is obviously. If you watch me,
They don't know what patience is. They can't do it.
Yeah, specifically my wife. Like, if it's a Resident Evil game, it is like now. It is time. It's the only one we skipped was 3, just because 3 make was a little bit poorly received.
The 3 makes.
So I was just waiting for a price cut. Which
Sure.
I just haven't gotten around to.
So Yoko's Island Express and Creature in the Well, super short games, cheap games. So if you'd like to jump on Discord and join us there, we'll be playing those two over the next 2 weeks.
I'll be playing both on Switch.
Yeah, as will I. One of us will need to hook up the capture card and get that stuff.
Yeah.
Capture card's here, by the way.
Oh no.
Yeah, and my set is very modular right now. But if you want to share some builds in Persona 5.
Favorite confidants. Best waifu.
Yes. Makoto's up there.
She's amazing.
She's S tier for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would put Takemi not in S tier, but S tier.
I think she's the best of the adults. If you're gonna romance one of them.
Yes. And why would
That's
you?
a conversation we could have. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, dude, boning your teacher.
That's the thing.
That's the thing you can do in this game. It's a good game. You should play it. Anyway.
Yeah, we love all of you. You're the best.
Yes.
Yeah, please definitely, like Tyler said earlier, give us a like on YouTube. Any sort of podcast platform. Join us on our Discord. That'd be awesome. Through our Patreon. All be great. But yeah, at the end of the day, just don't forget to share what you love with who you love.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Bye.